No chance I'll go to Nigeria. It's now 9 years later and I'm still in Nigeria.
They had about $600,000 in payroll costs in their franchise recruitment, bringing in between 5 and 10 franchises a year.
Instead of the user instructing the AI what to do, we want the AI to be instructing the user what to do.
He was making the point about the failure of Barbecues Galore and Lincraft.
I'd rather have 20, 30, 40 franchisees that are very profitable rather than having 100 that are sort of squeaky.
This is like franchisor marketing intelligence. If you can't commit to a transparent and authentic content strategy, don't say you are because you're not.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the FranFeast podcast. My name's Glenn Walford. I'm joined by co-host Joel Kleber. G'day, Joel.
Hey, Glenn.
How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. So, first one went all right, didn't it? The first episode. It took us a while to get it out there.
It did. There was a lot of work by you yourself and your team, Jono. So we appreciate that. Yeah, it was really enjoyable, and hopefully people got a lot out of it.
Yeah, and thanks, mate. And I think we've got it all lined out now, I reckon. So, haven't we? We sort of know how to do things now.
Yeah, it's quite. Look, at the end of the day, franchising is massive in Australia, but I think it's definitely the only show doing what it's doing, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully people can get involved, and if they want to come on, just reach out to you and don't be shy. I think that's always the thing. People get a bit shy sometimes reaching out and trying to get on shows and things. Don't be shy. If you want to get on the show, just reach out to Glenn.
Yeah, have a chat. Or you, best thing, LinkedIn, just direct message either of us. That's the best way to do it. So, and let's have a chat about being on it. So I'm going to go through the menu. So what we've got coming up on this episode. So we start with our headlines as per usual. Then we're going to have our feature guest, which is Patrick McMichael, who I think we've interviewed him in a Joel. Yeah, he's a very interesting guy, isn't he?
Oh, extremely smart individual, and what a career. I didn't know much about him before. I saw the run sheet, and I asked AI to do me a bit of a rundown. This guy, I couldn't believe the list of achievements and things that he's done, and they're extremely talented and smart and very well-spoken individual, so people get a lot out of that.
Yeah, amazing guy. So he's CEO of businesses and franchise companies in Nigeria, Kenya, Australia, the Philippines, runs his own removal business and everything now, as well as doing all that in consulting. So a fascinating story. So look forward to everyone seeing that. Then we're going to have Josh Cairns from Minke, which is a brand, I think it's in pre-launch at the moment there, which is a software solution for franchisors. And it's going to be about AI and franchising and empowering brands with AI intelligence. He was pretty interesting. And that's one of the ones, Joel, that we did in person up at the Franchise Forum. We had a few there, so there'll be different sorts of ones, not virtual.
We did, and Josh is a great guy, got a great entrepreneurial story as well. I had a really good chat with Josh, and really, really good person. And this product, what he's doing, like it's really, really interesting to me. And I think it's going to be really useful to a lot of people in franchising. And it's not just me saying that. I've had a really hour plus long chat with Josh and about a whole bunch of things. And I think what a great entrepreneurial story. And this product's going to be really, really cool for franchising. Yeah,
and that's why we really wanted to get it on, didn't we? So we put him as the first expert insight, pretty much, just to get that out there. We also met with Doug Downer on the key factors exporting franchise brands from Australia. We sat down with Doug. Doug's got that business franchise ready. Probably he's franchised probably I think he said 300 plus brands. I think it was, didn't he say?
A lot. And he got the award as well, which is great to see. He does a lot of stuff online, and he really well deserved. And I'm very extremely busy man, but really great experience as well too. So he's got a lot of great knowledge.
Yeah, no, he is. And Darryn McAuliffe, we'll call him, I don't know, what do they say on the Tonight Show? Is a friend of the show. A friend of the show, but
D-Mac.
D-Mac. So he's going to talk about what true transparency actually means in a franchise. And I think that because it's certainly something big for you. I know you talk about transparency a lot in a lot of your content, and that's pretty much the basis of pretty much everything you do, isn't it? But that was a really good chat we had with Darryn there. He's a very insightful person. He's got the FRANData license here in Australia, and does a lot of work on data and actually what makes good franchisors tick.
Yeah, absolutely. Really insightful. A lot of people in franchising will know Darryn anyway, but I think it gives you really good insights into just the value of the rating. So if you're umming and ahhing about it or don't see the value in it or don't understand what it can do for you, I think listening to what Darryn has to say about it will be well worth your time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we're going to go into Brand Report with Mark Crapper from Lounge Repair Guys. It's a business that repairs not just lounges, but repairs upholstery and leather and all that sort of stuff there. So it's an interesting business that he acquired a few years ago now that was already up and running. So Mark's going to talk us through that. It's one of those mobile services businesses out there. You know all about the mobile services businesses, Joel, so it'll be an interesting chat for you.
Absolutely. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, and then you're going to follow up with the AI tool of the week. What's the AI tool of the week this week?
ChatGPT released their new desktop app. It's a combination of ChatGPT Work, they call it now, and Codex. So they're definitely back in the race now. It used to be Claude in front for a while now, and they've come out of sort of nowhere with this, and obviously their new model Sol. So just running through a bit about that and what it can do.
Excellent, mate. Excellent. Then we'll have the social scene, and then we'll finish with upcoming events, and then the show is done. So that'll wrap the show. That's our menu for this week. So let's get into it now, Joel. We're going to jump straight in the headlines, mate. It's been a busy little time in franchising. First of all, we're going to talk about, it's everywhere, it's all over the place, it's the 7-Eleven story. Joel, you've been well and truly across that. Let's start with 7-Eleven.
Sure. So obviously there's a lot of current affairs stories that ran on it. I think they had 5 different stories on the current affair over it, which was quite remarkable for a current affair to keep going with it. And obviously those videos have racked up millions of views. Doesn't include the views on short form social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram Reels and things like that. But this is obviously with franchisees, when they go to sell, they're not getting the goodwill back and the agreement's lapsing, and then obviously corporate comes in and takes the store back, and the franchisee doesn't get their initial goodwill money.
Yeah, and it's because the franchisor doesn't approve. I think in the case that we saw mostly, the first one, there's sites everywhere. I'm looking at ABC News about they didn't approve the sale to a particular potential franchise owner.
Yeah, and that was from a lot of them as well. So a few of them obviously come together, and some of them cited, they might bought 6 prospects and they were all knocked back, even though even one of them was like a 7-Eleven manager knocked back. So and obviously the agreement lapses and they can come in and take the store back. So,
oh, good. So you did a bit of content on it, didn't you?
We did, because obviously, Jim's really passionate about franchising and obviously, really franchisee focused in what we do. And obviously, we got Jim to react to it. And when we react to stuff, we show a news headline, and Jim will just come and react to it and say his piece. And that got in the news as well in news.com.au. Did a couple of separate stories on that. And that sort of morphed into a few other things as well regarding regulation as well, with Jim having a crack at Albanese, saying Albanese doesn't know what it's like to run a small business, come work with a franchisee for a day. So it sort of morphed into that as well.
Yeah, and I think, my point with it, with all of these stories, as always, there's a lot of detail behind the scenes that lead up to it, as well as I do. And being in senior management in franchising before, there's generally always a lot that has gone on behind the scenes to lead to stuff. It doesn't just happen in a really short space of time. And you never know the detail, do you? It's the sort of stuff we don't know the actual full detail of.
You don't, but that's the problem, right? And this is where I'm a little bit different. Like, we had bad media stories back, with dog wash probably a couple of years ago. We had like 5 stories on news.com.au within 7 days or something, right? And what do? I printed out literally every single story, and we got a podcast for every single news article, and we went through the whole article with Jim and got him to correct things one by one. We put the email exchanges with Jim and the actual journalist in full for context on our own website. So we're extremely transparent about what we do, and that saved a lot of prospects. A lot of prospects were looking at dog wash thinking not doing it, and then they saw the long form video where we actually explained everything and went through it and gave the context, and we're really transparent about it with it. Whereas with 7-Eleven, it's what I believe is that one statement that gets kept being used and saying, 95% of our stores are transferred or the leases are renewed, and so that seems to be the line. But I just think as a PR exercise, it was handled extremely badly. And I think the typical reaction is hide your head and it'll go away. But when you get 5 stories and when they're stopping at the airport, just try and, you've got to try and. It doesn't work anymore. Yeah. And that's horrible footage as well. And I feel sorry for the CEO, but I sort of think you've got to try and be a bit better to protect the brand than that. And obviously their socials are getting smashed afterwards. What really annoyed me though, Glenn, and what people in franchising listening to this should understand, is that a story like that tarnishes all of us. It doesn't just tarnish 7-Eleven. It tarnishes all of us. And the concept of franchising, which is already really lowly, which is not trusted overly much by the Australian public who's got no idea about how it actually works. That's all I think. And that story will stick in them. And, you can just go through the comment sections on Instagram, TikTok, on the YouTube videos, on Facebook, whatever it is. And a general comment you'll see is, franchise is a scam. All they do is take your money. All right?
Yeah.
So we are all punished by this. And that's why I understand there's 2 sides to a story as well. But 7-Eleven doesn't just have an onus to obviously them and their franchisees, but to the franchising industry and community as a whole. And when you don't address it with transparency, and when you don't handle the PR situation properly, it will affect us all for years to come. And it makes another barrier of trust we've got to get over again with now in this.
I totally agree. And I'm not a one to say like, oh, gee, there's more to it and that's okay. I was making numerous commentary on LinkedIn saying, come on, 7-Eleven, explain yourself. I think an explain yourself was very necessary, and it should have been very, very early on. And really just a statement like we've seen, it's not enough.
No,
it's not enough.
It's not. And that's the old PR. Yeah.
If you think you're in a decent position and it's a defensible position and you think you're good to go and you think you're well and truly within your rights and you acted in good faith and you've done everything you can to try and, not let the situation come to what it is, then just speak to that.
I'll tell you what you do, Glenn. I'll tell you what you do, because I've been through this, right? So I'll tell you, I think Fiona was her name. What Fiona should have done, they should have sat down with a current affair in a full sit-down interview. And you would have what I did this with Jim, right? So they had a bad Jim's plumbing story, right? It was really bad media. We didn't shirk it. They'll come and do a big expose on Jim's plumbing and stuff. So like, great, come and interview Jim and we'll do it. And the journalist who's still with a current affair called Georgina I knew she's going to come with an agenda, and they're going to try and take the clips that they can to form the story they did. So what happened was we sat him in an office, and I said, you can interview Jim and ask him whatever you like, because I was following him around the site because they were trying to get me away from it so I could, because Jim's very honest and transparent. So we sat him, we said, you can do the interview in here and do as long as you want. And Jim said, fantastic, we can do the interview. So I sat in the background with my phone and recorded the whole thing. It went for around 45 minutes and I recorded the whole thing. I said to the journalist afterwards, I said, if you don't do a fair edit, I will upload this in full on our YouTube channel and our social media accounts to show people how these things actually get clipped up and edited to form a narrative you do. And what do you think happened? The story was very favorable to Jim and it was fair and honest with what he was saying. And I've actually gone back, I've still got that video on my phone. Maybe I'll upload it one day. And you can see the journalist try and ask him the same question 5 or 6 different ways to try and get the answer that they want. But, well done to a current affair, they gave us a good edit. So that's what I would have done. I would have said, right, I will agree with the full interview with you. We're going to sit down here, and then someone from the team should have just sat there, filmed the whole thing. And if they don't do a good edit, just upload it.
That's always your best defense there, is that because then people can see the context and everything. I suppose the danger is about whether the horse is bolted by then anyway, but it's still good to have that always as a backup. But I get frustrated with this sort of stuff from a franchising perspective because it literally affects every single person involved in the sector.
The media doesn't like franchising. It's simple as that. Like if you went and used AI and said, go over the last 10 years from every publicly available news article about franchising or franchise brand, and give me a sentiment score on are there more negative or positive ones, it's going to be far, far, far more negative. And it's very frustrating because we know franchising is a great vehicle for wealth. It's changed the lives of a lot of people, and they wouldn't have had that wealth and their changed life situation if it wasn't for franchising. And the media doesn't seem to run those, or we don't seem to have any angle or avenue to get them run unless someone's going to pay a lot of money to get those as a sponsored article or something, right? So franchising really as an industry, when these things sort of happen, we've got to then start upping our level of transparency with what we do regarding the franchising offering.
We do, and I think it's crucial. It should be a lesson to every franchisor. End of term stuff with a situation like this, there can be the only method can be total transparency, a really good time frame between there, so no one's caught off guard, no surprises and everything there, and then everyone acting in a transparent and authentic fashion and being open with information. So I'm not sure, I don't know all the inside out details like you don't either, but it didn't look good.
No, and the problem is it's permanently now on the internet, right? And like I understand the old school approach is do a statement and that's it. But like when your only communication channel back in the day was TV or radio or whatever, then that's fine. People will forget. But now this thing's living as a digital footprint on YouTube and on social media and in Reddit forums and Facebook groups and stuff like that. And I guarantee in 7 years' time, if someone searches the word 7-Eleven franchise, you're going to have something from Reddit or some video pop up from 7 years ago about this sort of thing. So,
the problem is, Joel, that 7-Eleven would have the same thing pop up previously 7 years ago as well about wage issues and stuff as well. So it's not great. You'd think they would have had a different strategy on this occasion. I think that they fell short on their explanation. But
I sort of think, like, obviously they're the biggest in the world in terms of locations. I think they've got the most in the world, whatever it is. And I think, obviously, like, you're so big, is it really going to hurt your bottom line from a consumer?
It's,
you know what I mean?
It's a different world. It's a different world. We all know it is.
And I understand that, but once again, you've got if you are looking to actually franchise, like if you're a prospect, like, that stuff's going to be very hard to overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to mention the impact on the individuals involved. So hopefully we get some resolution on that and people can move forward. Yep. Into a slightly more positive light, Wendy's record-breaking opening in Dandenong. Did you see this? Have you been down to it? You're based in Melbourne. Have you been down to it?
No, I haven't been to it, but I did see it online come up.
Yeah. So what are you on? Yahoo Lifestyle. Wild Wendy's reality exposed weeks after breaking opening in Australia there. So at first I thought, I'm just opening another one here. So the first one was that, it had it's their biggest opening in the world in 57 years or something, as I gather. What's the story? That's a lot of burgers. So that's great. So the brand in Australia, I've been to the one here at Surfers Paradise. I've also tried it in the US when I was over there. The Surfers Paradise one was nice. It was good food. It wasn't actually bad. I mean, it's obviously QSR, burgers and stuff like that, but it's tasty. The kids loved it. Everyone loved it. And it seems to still be going well here.
Yeah, well, I think they're planning to open 200 restaurants nationwide in the coming years. And I think it said 17,000 burgers they sold in their first week. So what a fantastic launch. And they've done a great job launching that. So it's really well done to them.
And it says here in the Wild Wendy's, first of all, I thought that we were going to see, like, when I saw the headline in a couple of weeks after it saying Wild Wendy's reality exposed, I thought, it's really dropped afterwards. They said, no, it's still going. Customers said this is as recent as the 17th of July today. Customers were still waiting in lines for an hour to order 2 weeks after the fast food restaurant opened. So it is still going. So there's a lot of hype and that's great. Good for them. Well done opening. So, same company that's, it's Flynn, isn't it? The same company with Pizza Hut Australia as well. So
Flynn, yes.
Very interesting to see how they go with their following openings. But clearly the brand is resonating and holding on a bit rather than just people going for their first burger. So we'll put a bit on here with their. So the Dandenong restaurant has been so popular it's broken global records. Almost 20,000 burgers, 30,000 hamburger chicken. All those numbers. Were sold in just 7 days, which sets a new record for the highest performing opening week in Wendy's history. That's quite a claim.
Well done to them.
Well done to all involved. Good for you.
Absolutely.
All right, next one up here. So we go there. Here's another new opening here. Some other good news. Firehouse Subs. You heard of Firehouse Subs?
Not until this. Obviously, I heard some stuff at some franchise events about that, but I've never heard of the brand before. No. So obviously, so American brand coming out here.
So they call it Channel 9 calls it Subway Challenge of Australia to launch within hours. I know it obviously happened. There's the article here there, but they launched in Mount Gravatt last week. I think it was in Brisbane. So the US chain was founded in Florida by two firefighter brothers, which is why it's Firehouse Subs, and has since opened more than 1,300 locations around the world. So, mate, when you're up this way, we better get up there and have a bit of a try of it.
Definitely got to trial a bit. I want to ask you then maybe bringing American brands to Australia, right? Now, obviously, we don't know the brand really. I haven't heard of it. So then me personally, like the way I look at it, yes, you've got a franchise and you're going to franchise and put on more locations and you got a system to scale it and stuff like that. But I definitely think building that brand in a really competitive market and how you market it to Australians is definitely the big key making it successful. But what do you think?
Tough. I've seen we did some content work for John Smith Subs.
Yep.
They launched in Australia about 7 or 8 years ago. They were down at Docklands down in Melbourne. We did the filming and everything there. I remember that day going to there. It was really nice, great product, fresh product. Very different to Subway, very different on a grill and all that sort of stuff, but it just didn't matter. This is the thing. It just didn't seem to matter. So that sub disappeared. That was brought out by United Franchise Group.
Yeah.
Did you try it?
Well, no, I didn't trial it, but I did. I obviously saw him. Me personally, I saw him way more at franchise events than I saw him anything regarding consumer marketing.
Yeah.
So for me, like if you're doing food now, your priority should just be obviously, you're going to have your customer service standards and all that sorts of things, but you've got to go so hard on social. You've got to get creators. You've got to get influencers. You've got to get whatever. You've got to get as much organic views as possible or paid views on social media to get people through those doors as well. So
Got to get some traction. You've got to get some traction and impact, don't you?
You got to get some traction. Like, look, yes, you can do all the local area stuff and like your flyers and you have your launch days and discounts and deals and things like that. But I think the best way for food now, like if you have a really good creator or if you have like a really good TikTok account as a cafe in Melbourne, for example, that's all. Like you can literally, if you've got if you're creating videos that can get 500,000, 200,000 views, and people come around all brand from Australia just to go to your place. And most of the cafes that are successful here, a lot of them, they're solely built on organic social media content. So if you're bringing a brand in from America like this, and obviously yes, expansion and presence is one thing, but I think just like you got to go to, if you have a really good social media content strategy, you can really do a lot.
But I think that's not, you and I talk about this a lot, that content strategy is just not hitting the mark for many brands. They're not seeing it as a priority. Certainly some of the foodies are investing quite a bit in that, but it's not content first for many brands.
Well, I think it's wrong. I think if you're doing a food or a restaurant now, you could literally generate all the traffic you need to via social media. And that's just what I've observed. And there's a few examples online you can definitely look at who've done that.
So let's hope Firehouse Subs, should I say? I think it was called Firehouse Smith Subs. Let's hope they get into it. Another one I saw actually was Jersey Mike's. Jersey Mike's was another sub brand here. They were just around the corner from my house actually, and that disappeared pretty quickly. So that was another one from the US. There's been a few Quiznos and everything, I think, quite a few years ago as well. So let's see how they go. Hopefully they go very well. They're backed by RFG. So let's see how we go.
Well, there's a lot of money obviously involved in these things, Glenn, and how you proportion that money to what. And I think like marketing's always the afterthought with these sorts of things. And, I just think it's underinvested in it as well. And I think like if you really look at trends and where people is like, Gen Z millennials, half of them use TikTok and Instagram to search for things now, right? And you just reach such a large amount of people with organic content, but you've got to create good content in the first place. And I think a lot of brands still underestimate the power of organic content.
Yeah, and I think actually one thing I would say about this, Tracy Steinwend, who was it was very much behind a lot of the Subway growth and expansion there in the US. She's heading it up here in Australia for Firehouse Subs. So I've spoken to her a couple of times at the Expos and things like that. So they were really taking their time to get this launch right and get this thing there. So they were in no rush. They wanted to get it absolutely right. So I look forward to seeing how they go. It's good to see new concepts coming in, testing the market. So that's great to see. All right, so we're looking at a few others. Here is another one here. We got Mitre 10. This could have been in socials, but I put it in headlines anyway there. Mitre 10 franchisee battles Bunnings next door in Jimboomba.
Yep.
So I like this one, really jumped out at me. I really like this because this is like a David and Goliath type of thing, even though Mitre 10's a franchise anyway. So this is in Jimboomba in Queensland, and this franchise owner has been in family business in the hardware business for 90 years. It's just a little bit south of Brisbane, and they're looking to put, council's obviously he's going through the Competition and Consumer Act to block the new store in the federal court from opening near him because he's afraid it's going to destroy his business. Yeah. So this is an interesting thing for the Mitre 10 franchise system as well, I suspect.
Absolutely. David and Goliath battle, even though it is a franchise, obviously being taken up there as well. But it's going to be an interesting outcome to see what actually happens, and up against a big budget of lawyers with Bunnings, obviously, who've probably been through this before as well. So good luck to them.
So it's got here. So Bunnings purchased the vacant lot next door 1 year later in 2019, I think. After he bought the store. So that business was running for a while. They bought the store with his brother in 2018, and Bunnings bought the land the following year. Well, that would be scary when you realise that. And so the Bunnings is going to be 8 times larger than Mitre 10. So he's been out there getting a bunch of media around what this impact is going to have on him.
We love a monopoly in Australia, Glenn. We like to think we've got competition, but we really don't. Australia's full of monopolies or duopolies, right? And obviously, with tools and hardware and trade, like Bunnings is such a big player. And, as you're right, that would just break your heart having that happen by him. And I think the quote in here saying from the barrister from Bunnings saying there's nothing anti-competitive or unlawful of Bunnings depriving Mitre 10 of sales. That is the essence of competition. That's what competitors do, he said. So, interesting.
That's an interesting thing. I mean, and it's almost, I mean, Mitre 10's a bit more general, but it's almost the barbecues galore thing as well in some ways, is that that business would have been eroded with activity by people like Bunnings also selling barbecues. That barbecue section in Bunnings just got bigger and bigger over the years.
Yeah.
And no doubt that was stripping sales there. So, yeah, they're creeping into pet food. So you've got the companies, that are pet store specialists and everything. They're creeping into pet food and just buying in volume and buying cheaper. So,
I don't think we're very competitive as a market. I think we've got a big problem with duopolies and stuff like that. We're not really, the anti-competitive stuff. I don't think we take it seriously. And I think Australians, we like to think we've got competition, but it's pretty much an illusion of competition with a couple of big brands in big sectors. And like look at the supermarkets, right? So Bunnings is the massive player in that, and I feel sorry for that guy.
Yeah. Same. So hopefully it works out for the best for them, but we'll have to wait and see. Who knows how those court battles go. All right, excellent, Joel. That's the headlines. Let's roll into the next of the show. Hello and welcome to another segment of the FranFeast podcast. And today we're joined by the wonderful Pat McMichael. Pat, you're a global franchise leader extraordinaire. How are you today?
Very well, thanks, Glenn. Good to be here with you and Joel.
Excellent, mate. Excellent. So, you and I, we've known each other for years. We've been threatening to do a podcast together for many, many years, haven't we? That's
the truth. Yeah. It's been on the cards for a while, but I'm never in the country long enough for you to pin me down for an interview.
No, that's correct. So, Joel hasn't met you. So, I was really excited to have you on so Joel could meet you as well. And the reason why I want to have you on was to really talk about, franchise executives, very much franchise executive focused thing here, to talk about being a global franchise leader, which you are. So I don't normally do this, but I'm going to quickly sift through your CV so people sort of know the breadth of your experience. I don't normally read off notes, but I'll just know because I can't remember everything you've done. So at the moment
that makes two of us, so we're okay.
Okay. You're a leader of, you're the CEO of the Fat Butcher, and we'll talk about those things in a minute about what they actually are in Lagos, Nigeria at the moment. I know you fly in and out a lot. You're also the founder and CEO of a company called National Relocation Services, which is more of a franchisee focused thing that you're doing, which is really interesting. You're a founder of a management consulting firm, which you do stuff in internationally, I know, through Canada, Nigeria, bringing brands to Australia and QSR and that sort of stuff as well. You were group managing director and CEO of Eat and Go Africa, which looked after Nigeria and Kenya for brands Domino's, Cold Stone Creamery, and Pinkberry Gourmet Frozen Yogurt. You were CEO of Domino's Pizza Indonesia. You were COO for a little while there of Retail Zoo. Of course, people know that, Boost Juice, Salsas and Chibo Espresso at the time. You were Chief Development and Franchising Officer Australia, New Zealand of Domino's Pizza Enterprises for many years. And before all that, as I sift through and I recall back, you were a franchisee of many, many stores in Silvio's and Domino's years back. So you'd just about be one of the most experienced franchise execs around, wouldn't you?
I've seen a bit, that's for sure. I was just saying to Joel before you jumped on, it's been a long career, still going. There's been a lot of changes in franchising since I first started many, many years ago. It's much more of a professional industry now, but it's been a heck of a journey. And then taking that outside of Australia into the international markets has been really interesting as well.
Yeah. So explain to what you're up to now with the Fat Butcher, because I know you were very much through franchising, through pizza and everything. What's the changes in everything now and the country changes you're doing?
Yeah, so I came back to Australia in 2024, expected that would be my final run of international. I'd be doing something in Australia, which I've ended up doing. But I also got called back to Nigeria as a consultant for a company called The Fat Butcher, which is Nigeria's largest meat processing company, sausage manufacturing as well. So I started there as a consultant, then they asked me to stay on as CEO. We're in a very heavy expansion mode at the moment. We're going through a equity raising process right now to further build out the company. Nigeria has a population of over 200 million. So there's a huge scope for growth of this business. And it's a very fragmented sector, the meat processing sector. So, this is a business with a long runway of success in front of it. So they've brought me in specifically to formalize the structure of it, formalize the governance of it, build an executive team and have it ready, investment ready. So that's what I've done across the last year and a half. And the business is now investment ready and going through the process at the present time.
You reckon much room for gyms in there in Nigeria, Joel?
Yeah. I wouldn't know where to start with that one. So yeah. we've got a bit to grow here still.
That's a lot of people. That's a massive population. I didn't. That surprises me.
It's a young population as well. I was reading. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a very young population. I think it's by 2050, it'll be the third largest population globally. And for gyms, unfortunately, there's not a lot of lawns to mow and things like that. That's test and tag and things like that to be doing over there. But look, where I live in Lagos is 28 million people. It's bigger than the population of Australia.
Right.
So it's very interesting place to be. It's very fast moving, a lot of energy, exciting place to be, but it's very much developing, right? And so that's why this business in the sector that I'm in the meat processing sector at the present time, completely different to QSR. And I've had to learn very quickly about meat processing. It's super fragmented. And so for one company to come through that's fully governance, fully structured, full executive team, it's fast moving for us.
Mm. So how did you get into that though? So was it a straightforward leap, I suppose? Because if you're Domino's for Kenya and Nigeria, because I'm thinking from franchise executive looking how they can diversify their experience into different countries, potentially going in with their broad franchising experience. I suppose there's a fair bit of processed meat going on pizzas, so you would have had a bit of an advantage in that background, wouldn't you?
Yeah, somebody said to me a long time ago, and I was just trying to remember who said this when you asked me this question. Everything's about selling a product, right? Whether it's a pizza or an ice cream or a car or whatever it is, it's just a product, right? And so you've just got to be able to understand the triggers for people to buy that product. And then you've then got to take the time to understand the industry, the team, how it all comes together. But it's just not that difficult. And I think a lot of people shy away. I don't know that industry. I shouldn't do this because that's out of my lane. I don't really believe in lanes, right? I believe in if you're good at selling anything, if you're good at selling a product, then one product is as good as another product, right? And you just got to then be able to say, do I believe in it? And that was something that somebody told me a long time ago. This one actually came from back when you had Pizza Haven and Domino's, and I was a franchisee at Domino's in Maroochydore at this stage. And I remember the Pizza Haven guy called me up quite cheekily one night and pretended to be somebody else and was asking me all about the business and, trying to get my feedback and everything. And I remember I said to him, if you believe in what you're selling, you can sell it, right? And at that time, my shop in Maroochydore, I bought an absolute loser of a shop doing $4,000 a week and built it up to over $25,000 a week, which is a lot at that stage because I believed in what I could do and I believed in what I could sell. And I knew it wasn't just about me and I took my team on the journey. Conversely, he went all backwards because he was very arrogant about his business and that they were the dominant business and would always be the dominant business. That was the wrong strategy for him, right? If you believe in what you do and you have the right passion around it and you surround yourself with the right team, it's just a product. You can sell it.
Mm. That parallels for you in gyms as well, doesn't it, Joel? Because you've got some fairly large competitors in your niche that you're paralleling with, just like that Pizza Haven guy with you. Were you Silvio's then or Domino's?
When I bought it, we were Silvio's and then we converted to Domino's. And I think he called when we were Domino's. Okay. I'm pretty sure he called after we'd done the conversion.
Yeah. So that parallels for some of the big players in your space, doesn't it, Jim? Joel?
Yeah, look, we're more against the apps, I guess, now, to be honest with you. Anything so Highpage and Airtask is sort of where we see our competition. We obviously have some competitors in the verticals we have, but, in what we do, I think it's interesting with what we're seeing now. Like we're seeing a bit of a pushback against apps. There's a bit of a distrust in marketplace sort of, trades. And I think people are willing to pay a little bit more if they get their security and know they have that trust. And with us, we have that. So it's more about just how we keep communicating that to people. But I was going to ask you, Michael, real quickly. I looked online. Patrick. I read online that was it true that Nigeria became the first Domino's market to introduce the 20-minute guarantee?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I introduced that.
How did you go there? Lagos traffic, right? So I know Nigeria, you look at some travel videos and stuff like that and just chaos. So how were you able to do that?
Yeah, so the way we did that was really simple. So we started off with a 30-minute guarantee, and then we brought it down to a 25-minute guarantee, and then we brought it down to the 20-minute guarantee. And we did that by continuously measuring our out-the-door times. And we started even before that. When you finish making the pizza, what's your time? What's your time going into the oven? What's your time coming out of the oven? And then we needed to have the right size delivery areas, right? So I remember when I was in Indonesia, one of the directors of the business said, no one really cares about what time they get their pizza. They just don't care as long as their pizza shows up. And I remember looking at him and going, you just don't get it, right? It's not about that. It's about customer service, right? It always has been, always will be. Customer service, good value, excellent product. Nothing's ever going to change in any industry that you're in, right? And so once we just kept measuring that. And I said to the team, I said, if we can get over 90% of our deliveries there in under 20 minutes, we're better off, right? Because everybody's expecting us to be there in 30 plus minutes, right? So even if I only get 92% of my pizzas there in 20 minutes, I'm still much better off than my competition. And I also worked out if I gave them a free pizza voucher, only about 50% of the people would use that free pizza voucher, but it gave a huge halo over the business by doing that, right? So we never claimed to be perfect, but we were prepared to back it up with a free pizza if we were late. And yes, we gave some pizzas away, but still, nobody else anywhere globally has done a 20-minute pizza delivery guarantee. We deliver on motorcycles, and we have a really disciplined workforce in Nigeria. When you ask people to do things in Nigeria, they do them, right? Versus very different to Australia and other westernized markets. You ask people to do things, you got a 50-50 chance that they're actually going to do it, right? It's an entitled society. So, but in these up and coming developing countries, people want a job, they want an education. And when they're asked to do something, as long as you're asking them to do what is realistic and what is fair, it gets done.
And that's interesting play on from that, Joel. Pat, we first started talking about doing a podcast in COVID times when we were talking about when you were overseas and we're all in lockdowns and stuff. And I was just blown away by you telling me about how you opened a store there and the stuff you had to go through. And I thought it was a really interesting story for people who worry about shopping centers and stuff and the challenges they have here. Can you go through what's required to open a store in Nigeria with power and all that sort of stuff that you were telling me about?
Yeah. So you look at a store in Nigeria from the front, it looks like any other Domino's pizza store anywhere else in the world. But then when you go back through the doors, right, behind that store, there's two big diesel generators that are running power because you're only going to get power 8 hours a day, probably maximum, right? Maybe if you're in a good area, maybe 12 hours. So those diesel generators, you need two, and they need to rotate, and they need to automatically switch between the grid and then also the generator, right? There's also a water plant because there is no water piping around Lagos, right? So if you want water, you need to put a bore down into the ground. You take your water out of the ground and you have a water filtration plant. So every shop has a bore. Every shop has a full water filtration plant there, right? And so the shop is designed basically to go off the grid. The LPG tank is a 1,500 liter LPG tank, right? You've got a huge diesel tank out the back as well, and the diesel truck comes in twice a week and fills the tanks up. So no matter what happens, the shop will run. It'll continue to run until we run out of diesel, right? So it's completely different to anywhere else in the world that you see, even though Nigeria is a developing country, and you can see sky rises all over the place. You can see people driving around with Lamborghinis and all that sort of stuff. But this is, you can't change the structure underground and the power and things like that overnight. So that will change eventually. But as it is now, there's workarounds, right? So in most developing countries, there's workarounds, and you just have to deal with those workarounds and make it work. And I think that's one of the things I've learned throughout my time in Indonesia and in Nigeria and Kenya is that if you want it to be, then you've got to make it be, right? And over here, we're like, oh, council didn't provide this, and there wasn't enough parking, and I can't believe they're digging the road up, and they've got signage around everything. Nigeria, they're going to dig the road up, and there's not going to be any signage, and if you miss it, you're going in the ditch, right? It just is the way it is. So you got to pay attention, right? And so that mentality of hustle, right? Everybody over there in any industry, whether you're washing cars, repairing tires, serving pizza, you own a bar, whatever, you've got to hustle to make it work, right? Because you've got heaps of competition, and it's not easy, and you have to work hard.
So were you aware of all that to that detail going in? So when you went into that marketplace, or did you find out on the run and go, whoa?
So I spent 2 years in Indonesia before I went to Nigeria. And so Indonesia was a great apprenticeship for Nigeria. And I remember going into Indonesia, and everybody's like, oh, Indonesia's so corrupt. Like, how could you go to Indonesia? Do you have to put up with all this stuff? I actually found no corruption when I was in Indonesia. I had 2 times where immigration was trying to hassle us about one of my expats at our commissary area. But, we didn't have any issue, and we dealt with it. And I don't think it was through bribes. I think it was just through normal government channels we dealt with it. Nigeria is a different kettle of fish, right? And so you know there are challenges with corruption, and you have to understand how to deal with that. And we ran an ABC policy, so anti-bribery and corruption policy. So we weren't allowed to pay people off and to handle corruption. So we had to deal with that with lawyers to get rid of the corruption. And so eventually we were known as the company that wouldn't pay. We would put you in court before we paid, right? And that's because we had international investors in the business. So there wasn't a workaround on that. So my workaround was I was really good friends with our lawyer. And after a period of time, and we would just put injunction after injunction and after injunction in place so that we weren't paying bribes and going outside of the company's ABC. Right. But then on top of that, though, you've got to learn that there's tribal law, there's local government law, there's state law, there's federal law, and all these different departments and layers of taxes and things like that. So you've got to understand that and how to deal with all the different governments. So like I could sign a lease for a property in a particular state, and I could sign it with the youngest son in the family who was handling the family affairs. And then the oldest son in the family would come in and say, actually, you can't do that because the oldest son is the one who's in charge of everything. The will goes to the oldest son no matter what. All right. So you've got to understand there's a lot of complexities to being international and especially being in developing countries. So you've got to be able to, you've got to navigate tribal and then general law.
So how did you find yourselves in these places? So how did you do the leap? How did you do the leap from Australia? Because if you're an exec watching now, I don't know, Joel, I don't know if you've got aspirations of being global.
No, I was sort of thinking. You beat me to it, Glenn. I was exactly thinking that. Like, how do you go from Australia and then this opportunity comes up, and also the courage to take it up because that's a pretty big jump as well. Like you can be pretty comfortable here and could have been staying here and obviously building, obviously really successful already, and then to go from that to completely different, pond if you want to call it, is quite courageous.
So I took a role with Domino's International as a business consultant. So I had about, I think it was 1,800 shops across Asia Pacific that I was consulting for. It was Malaysia, China, India, I don't think Indonesia at that stage, Australia, New Zealand. I think that's about it. Singapore.
How many countries I can't remember?
So I'd already been international. So that was my first run going into the international markets, right? And I'd just come out of the Australian executive team, and Australia was, the pace setters and super high tech and really moving fast. And so I moved into this international consulting role, and it's like being a diplomat. And I could never be a diplomat working in slow motion and just achieving nothing. And so I think I achieved a bit in the international role, and it exposed me to the international markets. But it wasn't for me because it was so slow moving, right? And I think the consultant world is a slow moving world, in my view. I'm in the operators world, and the operators world to me is fast moving, fast paced, get things done, make decisions, take action. So when I came out of that role, that's when I came back in Australia, and I was working with Retail Zoo. And again, it was just a bit slow for me. Lots of meetings and lots of we're going to do this and we're going to do this, and it wasn't happening.
I remember that time with you. It just didn't click for you. There wasn't a good alignment and good sync, was there?
It's hard to come out of Domino's Pizza Enterprises and go into a slow-moving environment. Like Domino's Pizza Enterprises, we made decisions with our pants on fire and just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. We were opening, I think my last year we opened 70 stores and refurbished 100 stores. And we were really pushing and taking the market share, right? And so when I was leaving Retail Zoo, and it was only a very short stay there, I got contacted by a recruiter to look at Domino's Indonesia, and that was really my first foray into as an operator in an international market. And we doubled the store count in 12 months over there, and really pushing forward, taking market share. Excellent market. And then the guys in Nigeria contacted me, and they said, "Would you consider Nigeria?" And I said, "Absolutely not. There's no chance I'll go to Nigeria." And it's now 9 years later, and I'm still in Nigeria. But what I saw in Nigeria was just an open goal to grow this brand between the ice cream and the pizzas. And if you come from a well-organized, and, Domino's Pizza Enterprises at that stage was a publicly traded company. Don May was the CEO, and we had our executive team scattered across different companies domestically and internationally now. You're used to strong governance. You're used to doing things right. You're used to quick action, right? And so for me, going into both Indonesia and into Nigeria and Kenya was all about scaling the business and bringing governance into place and building the executive team. And that's really what I became very good at, which is developing businesses, developing brands. And I do that now with the Fat Butcher. I'm doing that as a consultant. I've got a number of clients where I'm helping them develop their business, restructure their business, rebrand their business, turn it into an e-commerce business. And then my son asked me to go into business with him in Allied. And, now I'm learning all about removalist business. And, I was just, before I jumped on this call, I was looking at our numbers, and, we've taken over this business. We've relocated it in the first 12 months and still trying to understand everything, but we're still up on the previous owner sales who'd owned the business for the last 20 years. So,
wow.
So somewhere along the line, Matthew's doing a great job, and I'm pushing him along from a marketing perspective. I'm keeping him busy with the leads.
Excellent. I think, and that you've beautifully segued for us perfectly into what you're doing now. So you've sort of, you've got a lot of balls in the air. You juggle a bit, don't you? You've got Nigeria. You're always traveling back and forwards to here, and you're heavily invested in this new business with your son in the removal industry. Why, as a franchise owner of a region, why the removal industry and why Allied? What appealed?
So I looked at a lot of businesses. When I came back over here, I was looking at, I was interviewing with different companies for CEO roles. And it was really clear that I was 56 going on 57 while I was doing the interviews, right? 58 now. And they all looked at me and said, my God, your story's amazing. You've got this huge background, but they all wanted somebody who's 45, right? And so I'm like,
why do you think that is?
I think it was two things. One, my age, and two, I'd been out of Australia for almost 10 years, right? And I think that was a big issue for people to take the punt on. Well, does this guy know about Australia? Are the international markets easier? And the answer is the international markets are harder, right? and yes, I know a fair bit about franchising, but and Glenn, you were talking to me whilst I was doing all these interviews, and I eventually just got to the point of, I'm just going to buy a business, right? I don't need to have somebody telling me what to do anymore. I'm pretty well versed and I know what I need to be doing. So Matt put forward, and I'd looked at a lot of businesses, and Matt put forward, and Matthew, my son, had been in Allied for a number of years, and he put forward this business that was for sale in Gladstone, of which I never thought I'd be in Gladstone. And I looked at the numbers, and the numbers are pretty good. Like it was, I looked at so many businesses doing $1 million, $2 million in revenue, and at the end of the day, there was just nothing left, right? The high wages, everything was just eaten up. And the removalist business wasn't that way. And Joel and I spoke about it quickly before you got on the call, is that you don't need a huge team, right, in the removals business. And it is a business where you charge a fair price for a fair profit, and you keep moving forward. And people are looking for removalists that they can trust, right? And that's the Allied businesses, right? We're the careful movers, and people can trust us. If we say we're going to be there, we're going to be there, right? And you got a lot of backloaders and things like that. And it's a huge industry, and I've got a lot of respect for anybody who's in the removals industry, but not everybody shows up. Right.
Yep.
My other son has a roofing business, and I said to him, on the side of your truck, you just need to put, "We'll show up, we'll get it done." Right. That should be your logo, because no, tradies are hard. Like, they don't show up. Yeah. And so James always shows up, and that's why his business is like growing tenfold, right? Because he just gets it out. He shows up.
Fairly simple promise.
Not widely kept in Australia. It's a country that's well short of trades, right? And when we were growing up, really nobody wanted to go into the trades, and I still don't think that people respect it enough. But my son James is absolutely braining it in his business in roofing, and Matthew now is doing a fantastic job in the removalist business. Both for what I consider trades. So when Matthew brought this business to me, I looked at it and I thought, look, there's enough margin here. This is a good business, and we can expand this business. We can start with one branch. We can have multiple branches of this, and I can use my experience to, help Matt grow his career and eventually just take the business over. And then he's set for his life. James has got his business. He's set for his life. And then I've just got to get my daughter Lily into a business. I want all of my kids to work for themselves. I don't want them working for anybody anybody else. I've spent enough time working for other people that I know that they shouldn't.
Does I reckon a lot of CEOs and esteemed CEOs such as yourself might see owning a franchise territory or region as a step back and probably couldn't bring themselves to do it psychologically. And how that, if you know what I mean, did the ego get in the way? Did you battle with any of that sort of stuff there, or thought process around it?
Not really. I don't really have a giant ego in relation to what the title is on my card or anything like that. I'm more like, I enjoy life, right? And so if I'm working with Matt today in the allied business and we're pushing marketing and I'm going through the funnel, which is what I was doing before we got on, looking at the leads and where we're converting, where we're not converting. That's all stuff that's really interesting to me. And then on the flip side, then I'm in Nigeria. I'm CEO of a company over there and helping them scale and push them into a new ownership position with private equity involved. And then I'm consulting. Last night I was consulting till 1 a.m. and we're just about to introduce a new rent to own program into Nigeria for the hospitality equipment space, very similar to Silver Chef in Australia. So like all of that stuff's exciting and interesting to me. What it says on my card and, that doesn't matter. I'm a bit old for that sort of stuff now, I think.
Well, I always see you on socials. You're always water skiing or doing whatever, always doing something like that.
Yeah. Look, life is supposed to be fun, and I'm not one who's going to sit down and, you'll never see me in a suit. You never see me in stuffy boardroom meetings or anything. I'm not interested in that sort of stuff. I like work hard, play hard, and enjoy life. Like I love being on my boat, love being on the jet skis, love spending time with my wife to be, and just getting out there. I work to live. I don't live to work.
So what's the future look like? So you got a lot going on, as you said yourself. You're 58. You're getting older. What's the what pathway?
Let's hold on a second. Not too old.
No, it's not too old. And surely they didn't tell you were too old. There's no way they'd do that when you're interviewing.
Well, I guess when you're a CEO, you have to be perceptive as well, right? So I can see through people when I'm doing having discussions.
It was the vibe.
You can see. I mean, that's the thing. Like when you get to a certain executive level, you've got to be able to read the room, and that's the room of people who report to you, people who report to people who report to you, have the vibe of the company and so forth. So you've got that's part of being an executive. And going back to your question of, to go international or to stay local, you've got to be able to adapt to culture internationally, and you've got to be able to have those understandings of culture and perception of people and how to manage in different cultures and things like that. You learn it along the way. And if I look back to when I started in Indonesia to where I am today, chalk and cheese. Like I was a rookie at that stage, and I was 22 years into my career then, and now 37 years into this journey. I know tons more now than I knew then, right? And so full circle to your question of what lies ahead. I'm enjoying the allied business, so I'm still learning a lot in the allied business. And so my plan is to scale this business. I think, we can own multiple depots across Queensland. I want to cluster these depots. So my interest is primarily central, down to the Gold Coast and up to North Queensland. That's the only area that I think that I would look at other depots. The Fat Butcher will continue to scale the Fat Butcher, and I'll do that for a period of time. But there's an end point for Nigeria. And then my consulting business, I'll grow the consulting business. I get a lot of enjoyment through consulting, helping other people. And you walk into some businesses and they look really good on the outside, but then when you get behind the scenes and it's just running, by the skin of its chin, right? There's a lot of work that needs to be done. But then when you get in there and you work with the owners of those businesses, and 12 months later, they're a totally different manager. The business is a totally different business. And that's actually quite gratifying, not only for you, but also for the person who you've been consulting, because they can see, wow, like I'm a different person. And those things they're fun. Consulting always comes to an end. But it's really, really special when you see the business change so much, and the person, definitely the person.
Fantastic.
Real quickly from me, how are you able to balance 3 kids with what all you're doing? Because how are you able to do that? Because international, it's just amazing. Obviously, your kids obviously doing really well, which is a great reflection on yourself. And it's great to hear they've gone into, I would call them boring businesses, right? There's a whole trend in America, buy boring businesses like laundromats or removal companies or window and pressure cleaning. I sort of see it slowly coming here with younger people, sort of realizing, hey, you don't have to go to uni to be successful. I can buy one of these businesses. But how did you balance it all with your kids?
So I would have to say that I've had a couple of marriages break up during this time, and it's unfortunate, but they probably would have broken up regardless, right? So I'm not one who looks backwards, and Glenn's aware of this. He's seen the trials and tribulations, but the best and most important advice that I would give anybody who gets themselves in that situation, and I say that because those are decisions I've made that caused outcomes, and I take responsibility and I live with that, is that love always wins, right? So my kids are always center for everything. I speak to my kids, probably James 6 times a day, Matt 10 times a day, Lily a couple times a day, just on general chit chat. James rang me an hour ago saying, I've hired this guy who's working for me now, who's taking on a lead role in his company. And Matt's halfway down to Grafton at the moment, on a semi-trailer, towing another rig with him. So, I speak to them all the time. And so somewhere along the line of everything that I do and the way I raise the kids, they've got massive work ethics. They're fantastic kids, and they still love their dad. So somewhere along the line, I must have done something right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the measure.
I think also the measure is, can you go back and name and have a lot of friends that you went to school with in high school? Like, do you still have a lot of friends on your Facebook that when you're 60 years old that were with you at high school? And if I go back through mine, I've got like friends all the way through that journey. And I always challenge people on that. Like, you're a good person. Stop second guessing yourself if you've got a lot of friends over decades and they're still with you and they're still enjoying talking to you and you're still catching up with them. And so, same question as the kids in a way, that if you are connected enough to your kids and to your friends, you stay balanced.
Beautiful. Lovely thoughts, mate. Life lessons as well as business lessons, hey? So we'll finish up the chat there and we're going to roll straight into the thing I warned you about, which is called the rapid fire round. And were you reluctant on it, I think, when I sent through?
No.
Right. Huh? So we do. This is the way we do it. Something for a bit of fun, a bit of lightness, and also to find a bit more out about you. So we're going to hit into the rapid fire round now. You ready?
Before we do, I'll say to Joel that I've got one of your franchisees working for me. Simon is my guy here in Gladstone. He looks after my house and looks after the business and keeps everything spick and span.
What's his last name? Is it Simon Kleber?
Simon. Let's have a look for his last name.
Best in memory.
He was with me yesterday.
Good.
And he's done the depot and.
What's that? Jim's cleaning.
I've probably just got him in as Simon from Jim's Mowing.
Jim's Mowing. I know a Simon up there. I think his last name's, the one I know is Clover. I know they do up there, but I don't know. It could be someone else.
Yeah.
I should look at my system, actually.
I've got him in as Simon as Jim's Mowing. But terrific guy. So shout out to the Jim's team. And
he turns up on time.
He's always. And he's always sending me pictures in Nigeria. Here's your lawns. Everything's looking good.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Well, I can't leave it to Matthew to do because I know Matt's too busy with the business to mow the lawns.
Yeah.
He's got other things to do. That's the way.
All right, hit me with your questions.
And that's the way Gyms love it. All right, rapid fire round. I'll kick off for the first couple, then Joel's going to take over. Biggest myth about franchising?
Oh, I think when I've sold so many franchises across the time and so many people think they can buy a franchise, sit at home and make money. Not true. Yep. Right? You need to be involved in your business. There are no sofa champions who are making lots of money in franchising. You need to work your business.
Absolutely. One quality every great franchisee has.
So everybody thinks that the best franchisee is somebody who studied and their university degrees and is a lawyer, accountant, all the rest of that. That's wrong. All right. Your best franchisees are your hands-on franchise owners. And we did all the aptitude tests in Domino's and looked at where our best franchisees came from. And none of them were professional careers. They all came up in the industry and they were all hands-on workers.
Excellent. Joel.
One mistake franchisors keep making.
Yeah, you really have to do a survey across your network of your most successful franchisees. And then once you see where they come from, it helps you with your franchise selection immensely.
And what's your best business book?
Pour Your Heart Into It, the Starbucks story.
Love that.
And the reason that one's a good one is because there is a point where founders need to hand over to professional management. And that book really lays it out, right? For people who are looking to go into a business where they're coming in as the CEO or the COO and the founders are in there. I always say, look, you really need to get the founders to read this and understand this, because you're hiring a professional executive to come in and take over the management of your business. And that doesn't mean you can sit there and still be the manager. You can't.
That's the one by Howard Schultz, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the best career advice you've received?
That I've received probably from my father. Keep your options open.
Nice.
So I don't lock in on anything straight away. I do a lot of research, and everybody knows me as a massive researcher. And then when I know I'm comfortable with the position of the decision that I'm going to make, is in management you make decisions, and that's probably the drawback of some managers. They don't make decisions; they just sit around and analyze themselves to death. But I keep my options open, and then when I'm ready, I'll make the decision. We go.
And then finish the sentence. The future of franchising is
AI driven. So
and
there's businesses out there. So there's businesses out there that, and this is one that I'm working on for my daughter Lily, is that I want her to get into an AI gymnasium where when you go to the gym, the machines are constantly changing based on the movements of your body and the energy left in your body. And then after you finish your workout, you go into recovery and everything's generated, like the AI is looking at your body and your pulse and your temperature and so forth, and then recommending your recovery and things like that. I'm on AI at least 7 hours a day doing different business projects and working on things. And so that if people aren't looking at how they can put AI into their business now, they're going to miss out.
And who has most influenced your leadership?
Again, my father. My father he's 96, 97 in August, I think it is. And he has his PhD in business management. He was a US Marine. He's very disciplined, has very high integrity, and has always guided me. And even today, like I'll do a board report for the Fat Butcher. I'll be doing my strategy for Allied and my P&Ls, and I'll share everything with him. And then he'll come back to me and say, well, at 96, right? He's coming back to me. He's asking me this question and that question. I think you need to focus in this area. And he's always right. He can spot through all of the paperwork. He'll spot the one single chink in the armor and he'll go, that's where you need to focus.
Awesome. Back to me. So which country has taught you the most about leadership?
Right, that's a tough one. I think it would be Nigeria. And the reason I say Nigeria is because things happen, right? I've lost a number of staff over there. I've had a truck driver kidnapped and murdered. I've had, the COVID. I've had massive riots. I've had, the list goes on. And through all of that, you have to have a level head. Secondly, these developing countries, it's very easy to treat people like crap in these developing countries. And that's something, in my view, is unacceptable, right? It's very easy to walk in there and be demanding and talk down to people. I will not accept that. And my team have full respect, and my door is always open. And that's how you build loyalty. That's how you build amazing teams, all right? And so by doing that in Nigeria, I got to see some people turn into really amazing people, and a team build an amazing company because they got treated properly. And that leadership, for me, it cemented my view on leadership, which is positive leadership, positive coaching up, not talking down, treat people the way you want to be treated. These are things that I learned along my career as what I wanted to be in a leader. And then when I started executing those in challenging environments and with challenging situations, people flourished. And when people flourish, business flourishes.
Excellent. Franchisee or franchisor, which have you preferred the most?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I actually really don't care. For me, it's about, I'm building a business with my son that he's going to take over, and that's his future, and that's going to be, I don't really see him as a franchisee in that role. I see him as a corporate leader with one of the biggest removal companies in Australia when we're done. When I was in corporate office and we took Domino's public with Don and the rest of the guys, that was an amazing journey as well, right? So they're all. I was talking to somebody the other day, and Stefano, he owns a bunch of different restaurants and bars in Nigeria, and he says, I'm selling this and I'm selling that. And I said, well, it's just a chapter, right? You're closing a chapter. And so each one of these parts of my career, whether it's corporate, whether it's franchise, whether it's independent consultant, whatever, they're all chapters, right? And and your chapters are for enjoyment.
Yeah, absolutely. Last one, biggest cultural lesson you've learned from working internationally in any of the countries?
I was in Malaysia and they wanted me to eat chicken feet. And I was with the head of the guy who owned Domino's in Malaysia, and he owned bunch of other businesses, George Ting, really, really nice guy. And I said to him, George, I said, I understand your culture. I understand that I'm supposed to eat this, but I'm not going to eat the chicken feet. And he looked at me and he said, Pat, it's okay. Don't worry about it. But that for somebody to not eat that as a international business consultant dealing with an international business owner and so forth, that's culturally unacceptable. But the way around it is just to be yourself and smile and have a joke with the person and you roll straight through it, right? So, and a full circle to your question is a smile gets you a long way no matter which country you're in.
Absolutely, and that's a fantastic way to finish, mate. Great advice once again. Thanks, Pat. Thanks for joining us, mate. It's been a long time coming, but it's great to have you on the podcast, mate. Thanks for joining us.
Been a pleasure. Joel, very nice to meet you. Glenn, thanks very much for having me on the show today, and good luck. I look forward to seeing more interviews online.
So Josh Cairns, founder of Minke, welcome to FranFeast, mate. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Joel, for having me.
Excellent, mate. So we're going to talk AI intelligence for franchise brands today. And I think the number one thing on everyone's lips as they're listening to this or watching this right now is, what is AI intelligence for franchise brands?
Honestly, we look at the landscape of AI, particularly in the franchising sector over the last few years, is a really, really quick evolution. I remember standing up 3 years ago at NFC Gold Coast, I think it was. And at that time, it was remarkable that franchising, that AI could write content for franchising, whether it was tidying up an email, so you stop offending your
we were thinking of like copywriting and stuff.
Exactly,
weren't we?
there was that's right, copywriting. We were really proud at the time. We had for my former business, we'd come up with a product that could write policies with consideration of all the regulatory environments that you had to operate in, and we thought that was just groundbreaking at the time. A couple of years ago, it became agentic AI to start solving problems. For the last year, it's kind of been this deep diving into data, and so for us, we see the next evolution. I think where we're sort of pushing now is that instead of the user instructing the AI what to do, we're seeing it going full circle now that we want the AI to be instructing the user what to do. That's not a full commentary on my vision of AI more broadly across the universe, but in franchising, where you've got these local business operations happening, we love the idea of a AI tool instructing franchisees exactly what to do to run their businesses better.
Can I ask a question about that? Because that was my question I had in there when you said that. I was thinking fantastic, but just for people to know, what's it basing it on? So it's obviously linked into all these data points in the business. How's it actually calculating or coming up with the output that's the right thing for the owner to do? Like, do you want to explain that process a bit?
Yeah, so the way we've sort of built that out is that, first of all, we already know that franchisors know the benchmarks, they know the KPIs that drive success. So they know the drivers of success, not the success. We all love success and we know what that is, but the drivers that push towards that. Franchisors have already got a great understanding of that. So expanding on that with the analysis of the data that we've got access to, we start to come up with correlations, trends. It might be a local area marketing campaign. It might be rostering certain people on or off at certain times. There could be, depending on the nature of the business, there could be so many different levers to pull. And so it's just looking for what are the most successful sites in the network pulling, what are they doing, and how do we coach the underperformers to do more of that and less of this, and just figuring out exactly what matters.
Now, it's the next evolution. And when I saw that demo on the screen, it had a really good suggestion for the franchisee on how to do it. Is the next step after that, then you can actually just go do it, and an agent or something will actually do what you're telling the franchisee to do? Or
there
is that the
is,
vision for you?
and I think you would have already seen, Joel, I know you're really across this stuff as well. There are so many tools out there, even if it's Claude Co-work, for example, that can do stuff for you already, and scheduling that to do. We see that at the moment, at a franchisee level, the market's not ready for that.
Right.
These are dudes who roll up their sleeves and they get in each day and they do work. And I don't think a lot of those bricks and mortar businesses can be automated. You can't make a coffee. You can't. So we think there's still so much room for humans to be instructed to just operate at a human level, but using the AI to kind of figure out exactly what is the best use of my time. I've got 8 hours to roll up my sleeves and get to work. What's the best possible use of those 8 hours to grow my business?
And the last one, sorry, Glenn, before I throw back to you, is the and obviously with that in place, like, it's just going to get better and better at learning that business and how that operation goes with all the different data points, et cetera. It's going to get even way more effective with its suggestions as it goes on. So the more that has time in the business, I presume, the better it's just going to get.
Yeah, it's time, but it's also just a volume of data. So what the early testing that we've sort of conducted, we were focusing a little bit more on time, but we find that if there's more sites involved, so if we've got a network that's got couple of hundred sites, I guess mid-sized sort of franchise group, couple of hundred sites. If there's 10 sites on, the AI is smart enough to do its best and give some cool tips. If we've got 50, 60, 80, 100 sites on, just the sheer volume of data trains the tool so much faster. It gets so much wiser. And it's not really that much about, because I mean, a lot of the data can be backdated anyway. On day one, we can suck in previous data and we can learn from what's already happened. It's the volume of sites that tends to make the real difference. So there's that, I'm going to say this wrong, but whatever the aggregate is greater than the sum of its parts kind of thing. Yeah, that's the way we think of it with that.
And I was thinking, I mean, we're at the FCA's franchise forum today, and I watched that presentation that you gave to start with. And for those who don't understand, and I didn't have my head around what Minke was until I watched that, and I'm sure there might be a few people the same. So you're bringing in all this data from multiple sources, and you're using that effectively almost like as a franchise or a field coach for franchisees to prompt them on activities to do during the day to help them grow their business. Is that the summation of it?
We've modeled it on the very best, almost like if you could go into a lab and build the greatest field coach, area manager, BDM, we call them different things, but if you could build that person in a lab, what would they be? They'd be attentive. They would be an absolute genius when it comes to analyzing data. They'd be engaged. They'd be available 24/7. They wouldn't be subject matter specialized. They'd know marketing and finance and operations and people and everything else. And so we've more or less tried to create that. That's what we're doing.
So you can see how this could fundamentally change franchise support system structures pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So what's your mapping? What's your mapping and your vision for that?
So we love the idea of the BDM, the area manager, that role being an absolute relationship guru. And honestly, most of them are anyway. It's what they do best. They'll go out on site, they'll have a coffee. They're such passionate people. They absolutely love the brand. They represent the franchisor with pride. They are custodians of the brand in some ways. The franchisees are, but they are sort of enforcers of that role.
And I think franchisees want this sort of thing. So we've got a digital version of Jim, like it's a using tool, Delphi.
Yep.
It's all his knowledge in that. And I actually can see the conversations. So I can actually see franchisees going in there, I'm having arguments with my franchisor about this, but what do I do in this lead allocation area or something? Asking his digital twin.
Yeah.
And it gives them a really good answer. They're saying, thanks, Jim, to this thing, right? So there's absolutely a want for this from franchisees.
We think so. We believe so. We're fortunate we assembled a really good board from across the franchising sector advisory board who have kind of guided product development from concept stage, honestly, before we even wrote a line of code. And so we do have a pretty... We are confident that there is a demand for it and that there's a real problem to be solved. Yeah.
And just one more for me, Glenn, sorry, before I go. It's just what's not related to this, but the Fable 5 drama with Anthropic. Obviously, they had the Mythos model and then they obviously pulled it. They relabeled it sort of Fable 5. Yep. I used it for 3 days. It was amazing what it did.
Yep.
And then, I had it pulled and what do I do now?
It was too good.
It was too good.
Yeah,
so what are your thoughts about just how the models are developing and sort of, obviously everyone's just pouring money. It's like Google, obviously, Claude, and you've got Chat and OpenAI, obviously, and they're just pouring money into these models.
Yeah.
Where do you sort of see the next couple of years, these models sort of going and just what they can do?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a consolidation. I think what's happened in the last year is that certainly at an enterprise level, but honestly, I think everyone's just gone towards Claude from what I'm hearing. Yeah. I remember I had an experience a couple of weeks ago, and I'll tell this story quickly. But we were my partner and I were in Canada for a ski trip, and we'd never been to Canada before. And we're on the little 2-hour bus ride from Calgary out to Banff where we were going. And we thought, well, we're here to ski, but we'd love to see a bear or a moose or whatever it might be. So I remember we jumped in ChatGPT and said, what's the chances of seeing a moose? It was early springtime, so they're still in hibernation. And it said there's almost no chance of that happening because it's the wrong season for it. And as a bit of a joke, I wrote back to ChatGPT and said, that's not the answer I wanted. I'm really disappointed. So it said, well, I mean, there's a chance you might see a moose. And then we said, still not really well. And by the time we got to it, we were just about going to be served dinner at the restaurant by a moose. It was crazy. It just tells you what you want to hear.
Yeah, that bias,
Claude
the bias on
it. It doesn't seem to have that wiring into it. It tells you what you need to hear. It'll kind of push back on the user a little bit. And I know that's just a superficial version. It's the engine behind it that those of us that are invested in it care more about. But I think it's just like one of these companies seems to be able to retain customers, tell them what they want to hear, retain revenue. And the other one's kind of there to do what it professes to do, which is to give you intelligence.
Yeah.
So you mentioned 2023 and what we were all using AI for in that time and what you were I wouldn't say instructing, but what you are using it in a business case for.
Yeah.
Are you surprised at the pace? So someone's in it daily, seeing where it's going, no doubt trying to crystal ball it. Is it hard for you to crystal ball it?
No, I mean, I'm not surprised that it's come as quickly as it has because of the use of AI to build the AI. That's where I think it becomes this snowballing kind of phenomenon. So I think back at that time in 2023, early 23, really, when it was all sort of fresh, there were already, I mean, those that were forecasting the future were predicting exactly what's happening now. And I don't think it was crystal ball. It wasn't tinfoil hat kind of nonsense. It was almost inevitable, I think, that we are where we are now.
You think people maybe just weren't paying that much attention? Like the layman wasn't paying as much attention?
Yeah, correct. And I think I think there was a fatigue and exhaustion because every single week...
I think there still is.
There absolutely is. And honestly, I feel a little bit of guilt getting up there to talk about AI because I think everyone's just sick of it at this point.
Goes,
honestly.
another AI guy.
I know, another AI guy. Honestly, you really do feel a little bit of putting a burden on people.
Everyone on their LinkedIn profile now has got an AI something developer.
Yeah,
AI,
I mean, you almost have to. It's a rite of passage, I think. Yeah.
Not me, never.
We absolutely do see that it has happened so quickly that even if there are meaningful, material changes to your role or to your business or to your, how you could go about achieving your goals, you just miss it amongst all the noise. So you are paying attention to things, and I think everyone's aware of how quickly it's moving, but the details of the movement, it's like if you've got a motion blur, like you can't see what's moving. You know it's moving quick, but you can't lock anything because it's just moving too quickly to even dial into.
Yeah. So you said you've had advisory board on this of franchisors, and you've built and sold a tech business before that supported the franchise sector. So you must have some insight at HQ level from a franchisor perspective about what sort of impact that might have on that team and that support structure and what that looks like, say, even in 2 years' time with a product like yours. So what are you forecasting as an impact?
Honestly, I see it going back more towards people. I think the right use of people, I've always believed, is relationships, whether that be customer brand relationship or whether it be franchisee relationship. But I think that the AI, it can't automate much more. I know to Joel's earlier question, the automation, there's certain things that just can't be automated. And I think those that are going to really excel are the ones who excel in the human-to-human interaction side of it. That's why we don't see Minke as replacing area managers. We've had a couple of people sort of pose that question. I couldn't think of anything less likely to happen than this. I think it's going to make area managers absolute rock stars. They're going to be
It would probably make an area manager go from 10 stores to 20 stores, maybe.
I think
maybe
it might expand that footprint, but I just think the depth of the relationship and the human connection is going to be more. So instead of them being the messenger of do this, it'll kind of be like, how are you going with the Minke stuff? You've got that stuff
Changes
happening.
the conversation.
It does, and it becomes so much more about the relationship. And that's what, I don't know, that's what franchising is to me. It's people connecting with people, rolling up their sleeves to have a crack together and do good work together.
Yeah, totally. You got something else, Joel? You're looking at me.
No, well, I'm just thinking, so you sort of more similar as like an implementation partner, right? So here's the suggested strategy based on all the data that Minke's provided.
Yeah.
And like, I can know what I need to do, but I need someone to help me and sort of, I guess, hold my hand in a way to actually execute and implement this, right? So it gives them more time to actually help them do the things that's going to move the needle, right? Rather than get bogged down in all this other stuff before.
Yeah, we see it as best use of time.
Right.
Time is the commodity that we can't get back. I know that's the oldest cliche in the world, but each and every day, franchisees have, between 6 and 12 hours a day, depending on work ethic and requirements and the model of their franchise site and whatever else. But how do we use that time most effectively to achieve our goals, which 9 times out of 10, I ordinarily would assume is grow the business. I mean, there's lifestyle operators and everything, but for the most part, it's growth related. How do we grow the business? How do we make more money at the end of the day?
I just want to ask your opinion on something as well. You mentioned Claude before, but I find it crazy that Google's not leading the way.
Yeah.
Because they've had years of, owning pretty much the internet.
Yeah.
And how their products, like I do new franchisee training every 3 weeks, and we have around 100 new people there, right? And I go to them, I have ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini on there, and I go, who uses ChatGPT? Pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
Claude, you get a bit of a 20 base, and then you might get Gemini with like 10, which I find is outstanding. Plus, you get an integration with Workspace. So, why do you think Google's not the leader in this space?
Look, from my experience, I've used it a little bit. I think I've used it natively within the Google Workspace applications, and I haven't liked it, frankly. I haven't liked it. Even if I need to write an Excel formula or something, I will find myself in ChatGPT just because it's easy.
Right.
I know I just finished praising Claude, but for something as simple as that, I'll use ChatGPT, even though I've got
just
a little
the user
Gemini
experience.
button
Yeah, the
in
user experience
Google
be better.
Sheets. I don't know why I don't. The experience I've had with it, maybe there's scar tissue, early days not that good and you can't get that out of your head. But I find if I want to write a spread formula, I'll literally just jump into ChatGPT and then I'll paste it into Google Sheets. So that's not an excellent answer, but I definitely believe what you're saying is true for me. I feel the same way. I don't use Gemini despite the fact it's free and it's incredibly excellent.
Yeah.
I mean, Nano Banana's amazing for what it does, but as far as the actual chat experience, I don't love it. I don't know why.
And maybe just some advice for franchisors feeling overwhelmed, because I think obviously you've got franchisees now, whether they like it or not, are using AI in some way in their business. They're probably communicating with head office based on a ChatGPT email, which happens quite a bit.
Yeah.
So what would your advice for franchisors be around AI? Like, what should they do if they're feeling a bit behind?
Yeah.
What would you sort of say to them?
Look, I love the idea of specialist agents. I love it. This is what Minke does. We have a team of agents that have a skill layer, and that's how we sort of execute our stuff. But honestly, you don't need Minke for that, not at the moment anyway.
Right.
No, like, you can create a specialist Claude agent for your marketing, give it tons of context, give everything you want. Specialist agent for operations, people, communications, HR, whatever it is. Create these and I would also say use Claude to create the prompt to create the next Claude agent. I know that's something people have done. It's not me coming up with it now, but I think, using a Claude agent to create a prompt to create another Claude agent, that's the secret sauce.
Right.
That way you get this massive contextually aware prompt. You drop it in there. You've got your HR expert or your operations expert, local area marketing expert, whatever it might be.
Now, when you say Claude agent, can you just explain for the average person what that means?
Yeah, so it's I actually do them as projects within Claude.
Yep.
But so I would say you go into a basic Claude chat, open up a new Claude chat. In layman's terms, just blab what you want. This is what I want you to do. I want you to create a prompt for me to create an agent that does this. Be my marketing expert, be my lawyer, whatever it is. Not lawyer, sorry to the lawyers. Anything but that. Not legal advice.
It's happening.
Yes,
it's happening.
But create a prompt for me to do this. And then what you do is you take that prompt, get it to consult you as well. Say, consult me on this before you write the prompt. Give me clickable responses and ask me one question at a time. That way you get a consultative Claude interaction. Get your prompt, open up a new project, create it as your whatever you want to call your project, put it in there as context within the project description, and then you can do anything you want. It's excellent.
And the great thing about Claude is just the skills library. You can just go on GitHub and there's so many good skills. And there's a great one called LLM Council, and it basically has 5 different points of view, and it reviews your prompt or whatever the output is against the LLM Council, and you get it's amazing what it can do. And I think
it really is incredible. But that would be the quickest way that I would say that people could start using. And my experience with Claude to great effect and really contextually aware. Yeah, it's really good. Awesome.
So as we wrap up this chat, what's the roadmap for Minke? You're at pre-launch, correct?
We're at pre-launch.
Yep.
We've got working prototypes. It's working really, really well. We've got our pilot program kicking off early August, very early August. At the moment, we're just finalising. We've had a bunch of applications to be a part of that. We're finalising. What we ideally want is different industries, different sizes. So the most franchised industries, obviously food, retail, home services, fitness. These industries, we want big, small, medium from each of those sectors. That gives us a really good sample size. We do have a bit of a gut feel as to who we're more valuable for than others. And honestly, it's not so much about testing the product for robustness or security or any of that. We've got that all locked down. That's all good. And we know it works. It's legitimately value for us. We just don't want to be standing up at events like this pitching a product that's not valuable for anyone. We never did that before. We built a reputation of high integrity by only selling products that were valuable in the past, and we just want to do the same thing again. We want to know who's going to get the most use out of it, who's going to really benefit from it, and then we can just deliver it to them on a silver platter.
Nice.
That's what it's about.
Awesome, mate.
Thanks,
we'll look
gentlemen.
forward. No doubt we'll chat
Appreciate
again in the
the time.
future. Josh Cairns
All right.
from Minke. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Okay, and welcome. We're joined now by Doug Downer, the founder of Franchise Ready and many other things, and franchise author, and what else are you, Doug? You've got
Just a franchise guy.
what did you say he was, Joel?
I say he's the most actively in franchising followed professional on LinkedIn. So a massive following on LinkedIn.
That's a big claim. That's a big claim Joel's making. So that's a good claim. So
I use the word active because there are other people in franchising, but Doug is really active in it.
Doug
so
is very active. Yeah. So you're so active, we're going to be talking about bringing international franchise brands to the Australian market, because I don't see anyone else with as many frequent flyer miles as you have and as many Expo days standing up as you have internationally. So what does it take for international brands to bring them to the Australian market and be successful here?
I think there's 2 parts to that. One is what do they actually need? And then the second part is, what are they prepared to do? And it's interesting because Australia, it's generally accepted that you have to pay to retain the services of a franchise professional to help you grow your brand. But that doesn't exist in a lot of the international markets. Like having just come back from, KL in Malaysia, no one wants to pay for you to do the work for them. They're happy to give you a much bigger success fee when you're successful, but there's a real cost to marketing and your team's time to get leads and get interested in international brands.
Why do you think it is they don't? Is it what are they expecting?
I think if I look at the US, like in the US, they'll give up to 100% of the franchise fee away to the broker network to facilitate a sale.
Even within the US?
Within the US.
Because they're after an income stream going forward.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think, look, every franchisor really should be looking at that. I always say to the franchisors we work with, your initial franchise fee is your marketing budget to get your next franchisee, because the value of your business is really in that recurring revenue model. But it's around, and so I think because the US has led the way, the rest of the world sort of followed. And so they're happy to give you a significant percentage of the upfront
fee on success.
Yeah, but they don't want to pay for it as they go. But there's a physical cost, unless you're using Joel's model but that takes time. You've got to have money and you've got to invest resources. And so there's a physical cost for us to be able to bring an international brand. Having said that, we're working with 9 international brands at the moment, and they're from all over the world. Like there's one from the US, there's one from Spain, there's one from India. Oh, it's actually 2 from India. So we're getting interest from all over the world. And you know what's interesting, Joel? That all of that inquiry has come through LinkedIn. So the work that you do, people see you and they go, okay, he's the guy that I need to talk to. Then it's about how do I get them to actually spend the money? And look, we could have 30 brands if I said yes to everyone that asked us to bring a brand into Australia. I think the challenge when you look at the Australian market is the unit economics have got to stack up. Like in most of those international markets, the labour cost is a lot cheaper. The cost of goods is cheaper. Rent's cheaper.
Are they surprised with the numbers when you show them here in Australia?
They are.
Or do they underestimate it?
It's interesting because if we take a brand out, and I think there's a massive opportunity, and I know this is probably another question you're going to ask me, but there's a massive opportunity for good Australian brands to go international because of the unit economic piece.
Because of how hard they have to work here to make it work. Yeah.
I mean, we've done our own studies on this, and Australia is the hardest place to do business from a profitability and return on investment perspective. So it is harder. The other thing that we're challenged with international brands is their unrealistic expectations of the value of their brand in this market, and also their expectation in terms of what percentage of the upfront franchise fee and royalty that they're going to get. Often they're looking for 50%, and they're looking for stupid numbers in the hundreds of thousands of US dollars. And the challenge we face is our currency, the value of our dollar is worth, 65, 70 cents of a US dollar, or 50 pence if it's a UK brand. So these are the challenges. So the biggest challenge bringing a brand in is educating them around expectations. Now, I've been a master franchisee, and the reason I'm no longer a master franchisee is because the model didn't work for me. You've got to leave enough on the table for the franchisor. So my biggest challenge bringing an international brand to Australia, 1 is to get them to pay for that service, and 2 is to get them to be realistic around the fee structure and what they're going to get out of it.
Joel, you're doing a bit of consulting internationally. Those people, and you have quite a bit of exposure online as well to the US market. Is there any chatter on what their views are on coming this way?
There's a couple of brands which is a direct competitor of ours. I'll give you an example, actually. A guy called Mike Andes from Augusta Lawn Care.
Tell me about this guy a lot.
Jim's so nice. He invited him over to come to our training for free, and he's basically just doing research on what's our model like compared to him, and he's trying to get into the market here, but he's been struggling a bit. Like, he's got a massive personal brand in the States, and his model is a bit more like if you want to scale to 20, where the franchise for you, Jim's Mowing is the one if you want to be a sole trader. He actually runs ads saying that. But it's interesting.
That's cheeky.
It is very
considering
cheeky.
The red carpet was rolled out.
Yeah,
I think that's a fair call.
Well, you know what? I'm actually planning to give a talk to our franchisees, and his speaking fee was around 30 grand, so I got that for free. Okay. So it works a little bit both ways.
There you go.
But he's been struggling with it over here. But probably, I I find their setup interesting with the broker sort of style stuff. They've obviously got brokers for real estate and for franchising. I find that really odd that they do that. I'm surprised they don't do what we do here with like the maybe a franchisor model. They start doing recruitment from in-house. And I think over there, I've seen a lot of businesses popping up actually. They're actually now trying to do what we basically do for gyms, but for franchise consultants. Start a YouTube channel as a franchise consultant, start building your personal brand, start doing social media as a franchise consultant, which is an interesting thing that I've sort of noticed about. They're actually taking our content approach and actually putting it to the consultant side. They're still not changing their model, but they're using content to try and
same
build
methods.
Same methods, yeah. It's interesting. Yeah.
I think my biggest been talking about brokers, using brokers to sell franchises here in Australia, even for international brands. The issue mostly that I've seen over the years of all the brokers I've been involved with is the nickel and diming of brokers. I mean, the retainer and then success fee is just not worth it, because most of the time the retainer, but they want to treat you like you're a full-time recruitment person for them, forgetting that you might be working to actually make a living working with 6 or 7 others.
Yeah. I think brokers in Australia are very different from the US. They're very transactional. A lot of them don't understand franchising, and franchising's harder than selling an independent
very
business.
much so.
So they try and steer away from it. So they don't do a good job of it, and they don't want to do it. And you don't see many broken firms, get involved in franchise recruitment. And I think it's because, in the US where they're getting the 50 to 100% of the franchise fee, there's enough money in it for them to do it. Here, the franchisors are conditioned, if they do use a brokerage service, because we offer that service as well, they might give you, they're nickel and dime you, because they're already spending, they've got this infrastructure built up. So it goes to your point, Joel, there's this infrastructure, and so that's the old way of doing it. So if you think about what you talk about, the old way of marketing, the old way of franchise recruitment, build a team. And there was quite a good brand that we did a piece of work with in Australia. They had about $600,000 in payroll costs in their franchise recruitment team. Then they were spending another $20,000 a month on Meta. They were spending close to $1 million, and they were maybe bringing in between 5 and 10 franchises a year. We put a proposal to them that said, here's what it could look like if you were to outsource it to us. It would have cost them an eighth of what it would cost internally, but they're stuck in this paradigm of this is how we've always done it, and this is what works in Australia. Well, it's not working. Listen to Joel and you see what he's doing, because he's taking a more holistic view. They're still stuck in this old way of franchise recruitment.
They're stuck in, and from the marketing end, and we talk about it all the time, Joel, they get stuck in the attribution end. It's like, we can't create all this content for this cost, because how do then we attribute the leads to it? And can we attribute a sale to that podcast? No, I can't, so I won't invest in it.
Exactly.
That happens all the time.
Happens all the time. But I want to just ask you something a bit back about, because your experience with bringing international brands here, about the culture aspect of Australia. Like, how does that play into all this sort of stuff? Because obviously Australia's got a very unique and different culture. Like, how does that factor into brands and what you advise people?
One of the first things that we recommend is that they invest in using, whether it's us or another consultant, to do a feasibility, to actually understand the brand. What do they need to do to adjust it to suit the market conditions in Australia, whether it be taste profile or employment law or franchise attraction strategies, the fact that there isn't a brand awareness of their particular brand in this market. So we do a feasibility, but and it's not expensive when you think about how many US brands have come into, if I use the US, how many brands have come into Australia that have exited because they came in here thinking that...
And cost $2, $3, $4 million in the process,
I mean, there's a good example of that, and it's probably not nice to say, but GYG's done the same thing going into the US. You could argue, did they do the right research? Was that the right market to go into?
So like you say, $50,000 research might have saved $40 million?
Yeah, could have.
Probably.
Yeah.
Do you think that's like, you mentioned about the brand, like do you think people just maybe overestimate how many people, the strength of their own brand, and they come in and think it's just going to pick up and no one has any buy-in or knows who they are?
Yeah. I think there's an arrogance to some brands.
Yeah.
Especially the US brands, I think, coming into the Australian market.
Yeah. They figure, we work there, it'll work everywhere. And look, they'll look to, some other American brands that have done well here and think that it's an easy market. Now, McDonald's, KFC came into this market when it was probably easier to do business. I mean, I cut my teeth in McDonald's back in the 80s. So, it was easier to do business back in the 80s than it is today. So it's a very different market. So they need to engage a consultant that actually understands the market and say to them, if you're going to come into this market, here's how you need to adjust your model. Starbucks is a good example. Krispy Kreme's another good example. And I had personal experience with both of them where they didn't listen and didn't customise to the Australian market.
Yeah. And also with going the other way then, with Australian brands going out, you mentioned it's a great opportunity. So do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah. Look, I think you've got GYG is an example of potentially getting it wrong.
Right, yeah.
I had personal experience taking an Australian brand when I was a director of a company back in the 90s, and it wasn't what GYG burnt, we burnt over $1 million, but we didn't do the research. And it just goes back to what I said earlier around the feasibility. Actually understand the market, and then understand that if you're talking about the US market is not one country, it's 50 countries. And so it's actually understanding of the states that operate in the US, what are the ones that are going to lend themselves to your brand and how would you enter those markets? Like I have one brand that we've taken into the US and they're operating in Jacksonville and Florida and doing phenomenally well, doing 3 times the volume that they do in Australia. We signed a master franchisee for New York 2 years ago, but we didn't, and it was opportunistic because you've got to register in New York, you've got to be trading in New York before you can grant a franchise. So you actually need to understand the lay of the land. Like there are 14 registered states in the US where you've actually got to register your franchise within the state to get approved to be able to then go to market. So we've had this master franchisee. Thankfully, he hung around, but for 2 years, and he's opening, I think, in the next week or so.
For 2 years, it's been all right.
It's a long window.
Here's the beauty. That business, the labour cost, New York's a little bit higher, but you can go into Texas or Florida and, your labour cost is half what it is in Australia. So you're already putting 10% straight onto the bottom line. So it's understanding the markets that you want to go into. So I've just done a feasibility report for an Australian brand that's got 30 locations, which is small, but their model will work in the US market. And so we've actually identified what's the roadmap in terms of where do you go first, second, third, and how do we market to get into those
So
markets.
for brands coming here, are you noticing an increase in it, or are people becoming more wary and thinking, gee, the cost impediments to operating in the Australian environment is slowing that down?
I think there's a decrease in the number of food brands is what I'm saying, whereas it used to be food was easy. Of the 9 that we're currently working with, only 2 of them are food brands. The rest are other services. So I think, and they can work because of they don't have that high cost of goods and that high labour percentage, so the margins are better. So we are still seeing a high level of inquiry, less in the QSR space.
So, okay, as we wrap it up, if an international franchise executive is watching this, okay, I won't say, give me your 3 things, because I hate those. Give me the 3 top things. What would you be wanting them to consider? If they were contacting you, for example, and everyone wants a quality inquiry on it, what would you want them to have already really thought about and factored in and considered before thinking of coming here?
I think if they haven't done their research, so we're working with a brand out of Singapore that's done all of his research. He presented his business plan. He created videos for me that he sent to me. He's actually ready. What we need to do is just tweak his model a little bit. So the first thing is do the research, whether it's using a consulting firm to do that for you, but someone that's on the ground in that market that understands, like when we work with a brand, we know what the rentals, the rental market looks like. We know what's a good site, what's not a good site. So you need someone that actually understands and can tell that client what they'll need to do. The other thing is making sure that they allow a fair enough return on investment for the person that they're selling that brand to. So that, the model that I typically recommend is 75-25. The master's got to keep 75%, and the maximum that the parent company should be getting is 25%. I usually go in a little lower, and then it gives you a little bit of wiggle room. But the problem you've got is a lot of internationals want 50-50, and that doesn't work. It doesn't leave enough money on the table to grow a brand, and that's why so many brands don't work, because they haven't given their partner, who's not truly a partner. I mean, partnerships are meant to be 50-50, so that's where that mentality of doing the 50-50.
They go straight to it,
but you've got to give the master franchisee, your partner, the opportunity to be successful.
Excellent. Awesome. So that's international franchising into the Australian market. We'll do something else on going out of the Australian market soon.
Yep.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Joel.
Thank you.
G'day, Darryn. Darryn McAuliffe from FRANData. Thanks for joining us again on FranFeast. You're becoming a bit of a regular.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Great to be back.
Excellent, mate. Excellent. So we're going to be talking this one on the power and relevance of benchmarking in a franchise. I think it's a hot topic. It's an important topic. So what is benchmarking? What does it look like in a franchise?
So benchmarking, I guess by definition, is how you sit compared to someone else. So in the franchise system, if you've got, say, 50 franchisees, I'm interested in how I'm going compared to you. And I'm interested in if we're in the same location, like are we actually like for like to compare? So I might have a big CBD outlet and you might have a small provincial outlet. It's not really fair to compare. I might be well established, you might be in your first couple of months of trading. So it's important to know what you're comparing, but importantly, ideally you're comparing against like for like, because if we're both in a similar environment, we've both been going a similar amount of time, similar demographics, then if one of us is performing stronger than the other, one of us has got some learning to do from the other, perhaps smarten up, perhaps learn a few tricks, whatever it is. So I think that's the important thing, is to actually know how you're going, because you could be missing things. And that's the power of franchising. Is a good franchise system that collects good data should be able to, in the first point, internally, be able to compare the performance.
So as a rule, do you think it's being done well?
I think it's getting a lot better, but I would say substantially no. I still think a lot of brands are in the infancy of collecting financial information. Now, it doesn't make sense for every brand to collect financial information, but some of them have got a lot of metrics to do. So if you're in a home service-based industry, I think perhaps it's not as easy to compare profit and loss accounts, like sort of man-to-man single operator. But if you're in a restaurant, or if you're something where you've got a lot of staff or a lot of product, then it is relevant. And I think that a lot of franchise brands now are collecting more information. They feel a need to lean in more to actually understand what their franchisees are doing. A lot of them that are on a percentage of royalty also need to be able to, I guess, defend what value the franchisee is getting for the royalty they pay.
You do a lot of content, Joel, on financial performance and everything happening within it. It's actually coming naturally out of franchisees, isn't it?
It's interesting. When he was talking about that, I was thinking we don't do any of that, but we sort of do it. We do it with the podcast.
I know.
Because I have franchisees who talk about their revenue on that. So because we're a flat fee model, we don't need to know how much you're making, right? And our franchisees are really like that. We got to think of the Jimbo app, which they use and put everything through, but we don't want to look at their financial data. We don't know, right? I mean, Jim quotes a figure still of, from 2019, which was based on a voluntary survey. So we just want to know if they're happy or not. But I think what you're saying, our benchmarking is the podcast in a way, where the 10 employee franchisee will talk about his turnover, and maybe the 2-person will, and that's how they actually learn from each other. So we should probably do it, but we wouldn't get the information from our franchisees. They're very particular about financial information and sharing it, and we're a flat fee model, so Jim doesn't want it. So, but I can see the advantage of it. But I was going to say, to your benchmarking, Darryn, report, you give your benchmarking report to the franchisor. What does a good franchisor actually do with it?
It's a great point, because the worst thing a franchisor can do is collect the information, put that impost on their franchisees to give it, not give them anything in return. That is absolutely debilitating for morale. So a good franchisor would share it with the franchisees. Some of them actually do it like a league ladder, and they actually identify the sites. So, Joel, your site is doing this, Darryn is doing that, Glenn's is doing that. Glenn feels he needs to get a wriggle on. I wish I could be where you are, and perhaps you feel that you might share with both of us how to improve. So they put it back. Others will say they work on it. Like they'll say, your territory or your unit is different to mine or Glenn's, so you should be compared with someone else, not us. So they play it back, and then the support structure will actually work with me if I'm inferior to you to say, well, this is what better performers are doing, right? This is some of the things they're doing that you don't seem to be doing. Can we try and coach that to improve your financial return on the
And you mentioned
business?
something as well, which I want to pick up on, value of fees, which I think is a big topic, right? How do you demonstrate value of fees, and what are you doing for it, right? So how do you see brands using that to help that?
So as a franchisee, everyone begrudges paying money for anything, so you want to know you're getting value. So if I'm paying whatever percentages of royalty, I'm paying a lead fee, whatever it is, what value do I get for it? So as a franchisor, if I'm collecting 6-7% royalties typically, then I could say that's actually funding my support office, and that's funding a person that comes and visits you, looks over your books, looks over how you're managing your margins and your staff and your rosters, and shows you how to improve your control over those benchmark costs.
Yeah.
And that gives more money in your pocket, better lifestyle at the end of the day.
So are franchisees, you think, thirsty for benchmarking data? Joel will probably know this as well. Do franchisees, both of you answering, are they thirsty for benchmarking data, what he's doing compared to what she's doing? Are you finding that?
Look, we don't have a lot to do with actual franchisees, but I would guess they would be. I mean, human nature is, if the three of us are doing something, we'd be interested in who's doing better and how they're doing that. So I would say human nature is they would be. I think in some systems we know that they use it as a motivational tool. It's good-natured rivalry.
Oh yeah, totally. I remember.
Like that.
No, I remember at Donut King when I was there, like 2006, 2007 or something it was. Remember the list had come out every week on who was what, and everyone would watch it every week. They wanted to see where they are. They wanted to see who was one, if they moved up or they moved down. Yeah. It was a key demotivator probably for the bottom 20%, arguably. But it was certainly a key moment that everyone wanted to see what the performance was.
A lot of our franchisees will seek out, they'll email me and go, I really like this franchisee. What's their details so I can contact them?
Yeah.
And we have a lot of
do it direct.
Yeah, we have a direct. We have a lot of mentorship that way. So the franchisee will share their story and talk about how they're running their team or whatever. And then someone will reach out to us. And it happens quite a bit. I actually had it happen last night. Yeah. The franchisee was actually thinking of giving it in. And he actually heard one of the podcasts I did with a franchisee called A Knock, and he follows him on social media. He's a really great franchisee. And he goes, can you put me in touch with The Knock? Because I want to give this Jim's Mulling thing a crack again. I really like what he's doing. I want to get mentored by him. And that's how we get them from that. So it's interesting. Like, we should be doing this sort of benchmarking, but it's a bit restricted. We can't in our model because we're a flat fee model. And it's not something where Jim's going to make
so many franchisees too.
Yeah, it's a lot. So... Because I was also going to say the one thing as well, which we got you to do, which people might not know, was we got you to do an independent survey of our franchisees, and we actually put it on a publicly available website, which is still there.
Yeah.
And Jim's hope was that it'd be other people might come along and do it, which is obviously not the case. But what about the actual? Obviously you're rating franchise systems.
Yes.
Like, just from your experience with people, like, what are the top systems doing? Maybe what are the ones that who aren't rating well?
Benchmarking
Yeah, from benchmarking.
Yeah, so benchmarking, they know what good performance looks like. They know the average franchisee is turning over this much money. They know, in a simpler model like the Jim's group, that you have a low cost of goods sold. You might have your fuel for your mower, and you might have the vehicle that you operate in, and some basic marketing and admin things, and then the rest of it's basically there for the owner. So they'll have a view that the average franchisee, if they're turning over this much per week, they'd lose this much in costs, whatever they are. Obviously, the flash of the car or the ute they drive, the lower that the leftover is, but they would know what that is, and they would know what new franchisees are looking for, right? So, I've heard you talk about the trust engine. People get a good understanding of what's going on. I think part of the thing is they go in eyes wide open. This is my expectations are being met. I know I can earn this much if I do this many jobs per day, this many days per week. This is what I should be able to get.
Are you surprised every franchise system doesn't get you to do this? Because I think from a trust perspective, like having a third party person rate this, and you can make that available on your website, for example, like that. What does that say about you compared to other systems that don't have it, right?
It's a little bit surprising because we hear this recurring theme of recruitment being such a massive challenge, and you think everyone can say how good their franchise system is. And we've got so many franchise systems trying so hard to be the best version of themselves, but something independent, I think, is powerful, right? And you can say, well, this is what someone else said when they reviewed it. And no one's perfect. And even in our reviews, we're not trying to catch perfection, and we're not trying to catch errors. We're trying to catch recognised brands that are substantially doing the right thing and have got action plans to remedy any deficiencies. So I do find it a little bit perplexing that we don't get more inquiry on that when recruitment is such a challenge.
Because I think, having that third-party trust there, and they can really be transparent about that is such a really good point of difference in a market where transparency is probably not forthcoming all the time.
Without sort of digressing too far, but it's interesting that the lending community is now near on insisting on independent reports to supplement the work they do. Right.
Yeah.
So,
and that was the thing I was going to mention. I was going to mention this sort of comes down to, I think it's a general apathy, Joel, is why people do it. There seems to be no reason why you shouldn't get your brand star rated, because even if you think, gee, I don't want to publish that, then don't publish it, but use it as your own benchmarking for your system. Improve in those areas. Next year you'll be 3 or 4 stars. Yeah. So it seems to be no reason. I think it's general apathy, and it's the same. That apathy then shows through because you've got bank credit reports. Yep. Franchisors say, oh, you can't get finance. Franchisees can't get finance, but yet they don't work on relationships and abilities with banks to get the best possible outcome through things like bank credit reports and engaging that. General apathy, I reckon.
And we've spoken about this several times before.
Lots of times.
Franchisors say that the lenders don't understand their business.
Yeah, we hear it all the time.
And the lenders and the lenders say, that's interesting because the franchisors don't understand our business and we're the ones with the money, right?
I can imagine.
And we only want a couple of things. We want good information, we love something independent, and we want the partnership approach. And they can't get it. And they lament the lack. So I actually think the problem is more with franchisors than lenders, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. I think if you've reluctant to do it, what does it say about your system, right?
Well, that's what the lenders say.
And that's
it's
exactly
like someone
right.
won't guarantee their business. They say, well, why are you nervous to do that if you have such confidence in it?
So franchisors have to almost just look inwards and sort of, a great example is what you said then, Glenn, is like, you don't have to publish a report, but if you've got issues, you can fix it. But we want, obviously, great, you can publish it. You can publish it as well, but I think it's a no-brainer.
Or even better, you take a multi-year approach, play the long game, get 3 stars this year, publish it, get 4 stars next year by doing certain things, get 5. There's an incremental long-term game here that I just don't think many are playing.
So we do have a number of brands that have chosen not to publish their rating. They've been rated, the rating's okay, but they want a better rating before they publish it. So they've got the right, under our terms of engagement, to hold on to that and say, what do we need to do to be the next star level?
But I'm just thinking for me, like as a marketer, like what a point of difference there if you actually published it, but this is what we're going to be doing about it in the upcoming financial year, right?
I totally agree. Can you imagine the content you could create? We're 3 stars, this is where we fell down, and this is what we're doing to fix it.
No one else is doing it. It'd be so much transparency and honesty that you get from that for sure.
So we had a few examples of that in the food space where brands were 4 stars, and then they'd actually said, well, why aren't we 5 stars? And we told them some things, and they were moving slowly to it, but moving positively. They went from 4 to 4.5 stars, and now they're 5 stars, right? So we're saying, look, the world's not perfect. Every franchisee is not perfect, but as a franchise system, you're admirable in how you're trying to be disciplined in your recruitment, how you try and support your franchisees, and how you try and maximise performance. And there's enough of your network staying that suggests you're doing it fairly well. So there is quite a few examples of brands that have gone 4, 4.5, 5 stars. And I think it's a good story.
Yeah, I think so too, especially from the market. The market, both marketers in us think exactly the same thing around content. Yeah.
So the other thing that's a real challenge with benchmarking is everyone wants to know what everyone else has got. Now, all of our information comes in sort of under an undertaking that we won't disclose it and compromise anyone's anonymity, but they're very interested in, if we're 3 of the same franchise systems, what royalty is Glenn charging, what royalty are you charging? But it's still relevant to say, we can tell you an industry average, right? So if we get enough disclosure documents and enough survey data, we can say, here's an industry average, right? So you don't have to compromise anyone's anonymity. And this is what they're finding with average weekly sales. Well, this is a comparison year on year, because it's all well and good to say, I'm only 5% up like for like. I wish I was 7 or 8. But if the rest of the market and your cohort by category is only growing at 2%, you're growing at 5%, perhaps don't beat yourself up. Similarly, if you're growing at 4% and you think that's pretty good, we're growing at 4%, and the rest of your category is growing at 7 or 8, then perhaps you're losing your competitive advantage. So I think the other part of benchmarking is not just to know in your own system who's going well, but to compare yourself to other players in the category. You don't necessarily have to know the brand, just to say, look, the category is doing this and we're kind of a bit behind them. Perhaps we need to, have some remedial attention to some of these areas.
Excellent. Well, I think we've talked through benchmarking. Thanks for joining us on FranFeast, Darryn.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Joel.
Thanks, Joel. Okay, so next up on the FranFeast podcast, we've got Mark Crapper from Lounge Repair Guys franchise. How are you, Mark?
Good, thanks. How are you, Glenn? And
Yeah,
Joel?
very good. Very good.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah, very good, mate. You haven't met previously with Joel, have you? You
No.
guys haven't met?
No.
No, excellent. Well, see each other around the traps, no doubt.
Yep.
So thanks for coming on board here, mate, today. Mate, we wanted to talk about, this is our brand report section where we sort of unpack a little bit about a brand. It's great to get some insights of what brands are up to in the marketplace, especially really diverse brands. I think last week we had Kip McGrath tutorial and education type centres, and this week a lounge repairs business. Can you tell me about Lounge Repair Guys and the franchise and what it does?
Yeah, we the business grew out of a need from the retailers where they'll deliver brand new furniture to a home, and then something might happen on the trip to the home, and furniture gets scratched or damaged, or it's partially broken in some way, and then the customer wants it replaced with a brand new piece of furniture, where they would then call somebody like us out to repair the item rather than take it away, because if they have to take it away and give them another brand new piece, then they can only sell the other one for almost cost or less. So that was the demand. But the biggest problem for most of the retailers is that they would have their own guy, and he was local to wherever he was, but a lot of those retailers were nationwide, so they couldn't do it cost effectively. So a large portion of our business is from national retailers, and then there's a reasonable portion as well from private residents. So when their warranty on the vehicle furniture runs out, they'll ring us and say, can you repair these items? And that's what we do.
What sort of skills do you need to operate one? What are your franchisees commonly backgrounds they're coming from?
Everything. I've got one guy's got a PhD in material and dye working.
He really loves it.
Yeah. And then we've got guys that, sorry?
I said Dr. Leather, if you can.
Yeah. And then we've got other guys that are in just come from trades, and others who come from office work. So there's no real right or wrong. One guy we've got who's colourblind, and he's one of the best colour matches when it comes to recolouring.
How does that work? Seriously, how does that work?
Well, it's interesting. At my house one day, we were walking from part of the house downstairs to another part of the house, and you could look out the window, and this girl who'd been there plenty of times before said, "Oh my God, look at that!" And we all went, "What?" And we couldn't see anything, and she said, "The snake." And we said, "What snake?" And there was a snake in the tree, but she could see it, and she's colourblind, so somehow they can see those sorts of things a little bit more clearly than what somebody who's got colour can.
She's got like Terminator eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this guy that does our stuff, he's really good at it as well. And so it just seems to be he can see the difference between certain shades and so forth. Where if you're trying to colour match, he can see the difference where you can't.
So you bought the franchise network, didn't you? It was already up and running, correct?
Yes, correct. So some guys who'd been doing exactly this sort of work, and they'd been doing it for certain retailers. And then they went out on their own, and then they got a warehouse and started to do furniture in the warehouse and so forth. And then we're realising that they had a big staff and a warehouse full of furniture, of which it wasn't moving too much. So they then got rid of all of that and went to mobile only. And then from that, though, the majority of the work's done in the home. Rarely do we take anything out of the home.
So, and that's obviously better for the customer, keeping the costs down.
It's twofold. It's more efficient for us. We don't need a warehouse anymore. Lower overheads, and you go in, do the job, and get paid as you finish your job and walk out again. From a customer's perspective, they don't lose their recliner or their couch for a week or a month. And some of these guys I've heard of stories of people ringing saying haven't had our couch back in 6 months, and you go, it wasn't that big an issue.
That's horrible. Yeah.
It is.
It's a consumer affair issue. Yeah.
And is that from your perspective? They just do that just to maybe justify a higher invoice, really, or?
We've heard.
I'll say that if you don't have to say it, I'll say it for you.
We've heard a lot of stories like that, and we've been to places and they're shocked and saying you can do it in our home. The last guys took it away, and we're going, it wasn't a big problem. I think some of them do it either because it's a way of justifying a higher fee because they can then talk about being a bigger problem than it really was. Whereas when we're standing in front of the customer, there's no really hiding the fact that you did the job in 15 minutes.
Wow, that other way must be super inefficient. I mean, so that'd be a huge competitive advantage from a land repairs franchise perspective. Being able to fix stuff on the site, get paid on the spot, and out you go. So what does a daily run look like? So with their bookings and stuff, and how is it done?
Well, it depends on the experience of the guy, but most of the guys will sort of do between 5 and 10 jobs a day, and then depending on the type of job. Some of the guys who've been doing it for quite a while can do up to 20 jobs a day, but they'll be big days. But there's certain jobs where we just go out to the home, do an inspection, write a report, and then send it to the retailer, and then they'll decide what they're going to do with it if under a warranty claim. So you might get 10 service calls to do in a day just to do reports, so they're quick and easy. But then you might get a respray where you've got a area behind the person's head where it's worn through the dye
on the recliner.
Yeah. And essentially that can be body oils, which is sweating, or it can be somebody who's on chemo or some sort of medications can actually affect it and so forth.
Wow.
So we can repair that, but they're a bit more tricky because some of the ones, the fact that the leather's been impregnated so much, it just becomes too hard to repair. You've either got to replace the leather, but then it starts becoming uneconomical.
I can picture one of my video editors right now as they're watching this and on replay trying to figure out how they come up with a real visual for a patch on the back of a leather recliner.
I've seen photos literally of a soccer ball hole in the back of the couch, and people say to me, and that they'll be under their elbows and under their hands, and you say to them, this is not financially viable. You could go buy another recliner. It does us out of a sale, but at the same time, it's the right thing by the customer. And they say, no, it's Granddad's couch. His recliner, he doesn't want that replaced. That's his couch. And we go, okay, it's going to cost you this. And they go, that's okay, just go ahead. Okay. So, some people just get,
attached sentimentality.
Yeah,
do you find it's is it a surprise to people that you can repair stuff like that? I mean, to most people, we're in a very disposable society, clearly. We've got a lot of waste, and we just, you buy something and then it's broken 12 months later and you just throw it out. Is there a surprise factor there?
There's a lot of people who don't even realise that our industry exists. I mean, upholsterers are disappearing at a rate of knots. They're retiring and they're not taking on new apprentices. TAFEs are not running those courses anymore. So it's really a dying industry. And for us, we're not upholsterers. We fix furniture. And so people say to us, can you recover my Chesterfield? And we say, no, sorry, we repair furniture. Most of our jobs are under 2 hours, whereas a Chesterfield might take, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, if they were working on it full time and, be an $8,000 job. For us, that's not what we do. We do quick, small jobs, get in, get out, and keep it moving. And so, so they sort of say, how do you make any money out of it? But it's a volume game.
So is that refined over the years? Did Land Repair guys start off? You said it started off with a warehouse with stuff there. So then the margins must have changed. Yeah, margins must have changed a lot, or the shape and the look of the business must have changed enormously from a franchisor perspective.
Yeah, well, I mean, our cost of goods is particularly low because depending on the jobs, the retailers will supply the parts because they get the parts at the right price overseas when they're buying the furniture overseas. So we're not supplying much in the way of parts. And an owner-operator really has his van and himself, and sometimes, depending on the size of his business, if he's got 1 or 2 techs on the road, he might have a person in the office as well. But, running the business is very lean and mean, which is great. So it keeps...
What's involved in the training, Mark? Like you've got people coming from outside, like how long does the training sort of take to get upskilled in this industry?
It's basically 2 to 6 weeks, depending on the person. Some people are out of there and they want to be out less than 2 weeks, because a lot of it's fairly straightforward in what you can do. But then once you start to get into some of the more technical fixes, they suddenly realise that they should have stayed there longer than 2 weeks. And so, but I mean, for us,
talent.
yeah. So doing reports are reasonably easy and quick to learn, and you'll sort of identify common problems. But then if there's a frame replacement that's required where somebody's sat on it, and you might have some person that's a heavy set and they've sat too hard and they've snapped part of the frame, we can go in underneath and actually repair or put something in to support the existing frame. That's fairly straightforward. But once you get into leather re-dye, where we're talking about with the colour coming off the leather, that can be quite challenging. I've had guys that have spent 8 hours on a particular job just trying to get the job to look right, to repair the surface area that's damaged, and then to then paint it and then get the colour match. And sometimes they'll do the colour match 10, 15 times. But once they get good at it, a lot of the guys can sort of do it by eye within 1 or 2 goes, and that can be quite a quick fix then, so probably 40 or 50 minutes. And then once you've got the colour sorted, you can then say, well, do you want to do the other 2 or 3 seat pads while you're at it?
And it's interesting to me because I was sort of when Glenn had a look at the business thinking, where does the leads come from, right? And then you explained before 70% come from all the different places, and the volume of leads and jobs that the franchisees are doing is quite a lot. So that's a really good thing to hear, that you already have that. You have that 70% of your lead gen pretty much sorted from that. From those retailer aspect, right? And because a lot of franchisees, like, where does the work come from? They might be a bit worried about lack of leads and things like that, but it doesn't sound like that's an issue at all in your system.
Certain times of the year it might be a little bit high and a bit low and so forth, but we're fairly consistent in the workload that we've got. For the retailers will offer between 5, 7 or 10 year warranty on the furniture. And then it covers certain parts. Electrics might be for 12 months or 2 years, and then the frame might be forever, and then the fabric or the leather might be for 5 years, for argument's sake. So they ring the retailer and say, this is done, and the retailer says, yeah, well, that one's only got a 3-year warranty, so can't help you. And then they say, well, have you got any recommendations? And they'll recommend a couple of the key repairers. And luckily we're one of those, so we get quite a few leads out of that, and then quite a bit out of your usual sort of marketing activity.
Absolutely.
So, don't you hate that? I lost my train of thought straight away. I had a question right on the tip of my tongue, and I was going to jump straight in and ask it.
Well, I'll ask you then, maybe. Sorry, Glenn. Like, how much then room is there to grow? Because, like, you're right. Like, as an industry, like, I heard it, and I didn't know how big it was at all. And hearing from what you're saying, obviously, it's a good model for the retailers because they don't have to have staff costs and stuff. So it seems like it's going to be around for a while, and AI is not going to be able to go and do this thing for a long time. So it sounds like there's a bit of room to grow in this industry.
Well, I mean, furniture industry in Australia is $11 billion a year from what the ABS statistics are. So that's not going to stop. That's going to continue to grow, and people are still going to be wearing out their furniture, breaking their furniture, boys rough and tumble in the house and breaking furniture. That's always going to continue. So, yes, that's not going to go away. It's just a matter of how you do it. There's one retailer that I know of that has very cheap furniture, and they find it cheaper to replace the furniture than it is to get us out to repair it. The majority of retailers find it cheaper for us to go out and repair it, even a couple of times if need be, than it is for them to replace it. So, yeah, I think that's always going to be there. It's just part of the industry.
And in your thing of the franchisors on the ground, so you've deliberately taken the position to make sure that there's enough work for everyone to keep fairly tight. You're not a massive territory seller, are you? You keep some territory spare, and so as a result of keeping it pretty tight, you've got franchisees that have multiple territories, don't you? It's fairly common in your business.
Yeah. I'd give larger territories to my guys. I might sell them a territory of a fixed number of postcodes, but then I'll leave some space on either side so that I can actually put another territory in between. But I want to make sure that they're successful and making a very good, viable business before I think about adding in another territory. I'd rather have 20, 30, 40 franchisees that are very profitable rather than having 100 that are sort of squeaking out a living.
Yeah, and that's a great way to go. And how many are you at now?
We're at 14 territories at the moment.
Yeah, and they're covering. There's franchisees covering multiple territories and amongst that as well too, isn't there? So,
yeah. And I've got South Australia and Tasmania, only 2 territories areas that we don't service at the moment. The rest of it is covered by the rest of the network.
But I know you've also got. I mean, because of your national coverage, or you've even got guys flying up to Darwin and there's stuff previously, haven't you, or doing journeys to Canberra or Newcastle or whatever to do service delivery on cycles and everything. Isn't that the way it works?
Yeah, exactly. So we'll do certain areas where we'd go there every 4 weeks. And then so we'll build up a group of jobs to do, go in, smash it out in 2 days or a week, and then get back out of there. And it's cost effective for the retailers and also the homeowners, as well as being efficient for us. So yeah, we fly in and out of Townsville every 4 weeks. So in Darwin we were doing that. We've got a local guy at the moment, but family that they might be relocating to Melbourne, so we'll probably be flying back in and out of Darwin again.
So you can find someone else up there to take it. I mean, it's a narrower market for you anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you see as the opportunities going forward in the business? I mean, you said you've got looking at South Australia and Tasmania as pretty much the only territories where you're not represented properly at the moment, and you're not, as you say, you're not a 100 franchisees, so it's relatively exclusive what you have. And with all the retailers you work with, what are the key opportunities that you see in the business?
Just going into different categories that are emerging. There's some areas that we do a lot of the electric stuff, so recliners and everything, and more stuff's coming out with more electrics in it, phone chargers or cup holders and cup warmers and lights and sort of
fridges.
And so
don't even leave the couch at all anymore.
Exactly. But that's also leading us into electric beds. Which beds that sit up and sit down and so forth, and we're doing that for those sorts of retailers, which then pushes us into more of the mobility sector with the aging population. That's sort of keeping us going at the moment. But there's a couple of big retailers in mobility, and they have their own teams. But I've said to them in the past, we're based in Townsville, Darwin, Cairns, all these places, and you're flying in and flying out. Wouldn't you just be cheap if you pay us to go and do that job locally, and then rather than you fly someone up and back? And so,
is that just like a BDM type of thing? You just got to keep going back and keep going back and keep talking about it with the solution.
Yeah, you're talking to the BDM.
That was my point. So how are you doing that? That's a lot of your daily stuff, isn't it? As well as supporting the franchisees, but finding new business.
Yeah, looking for new categories. Quite often we get people ring us and say, "Do you do this?" And we go, "No, but we could probably have a good look at it." And then we just follow our nose on that regard. I sort of do the round of as many retailers as I can twice a year, and sort of fly and go down to Melbourne and Sydney and around to different areas, and just sort of keep waving the company flag, and just sort of keeping close to them to find out what their needs are and where they're growing. So,
what are the for people, even considering something like this, because all sorts of people are watching this sort of stuff, executives and also potential franchisees. What do the best franchisees do? Like, what are the ones that you look at and you go, that guy runs a great business or she runs a great business that makes them the most successful?
I find it interesting. I say a lot to a lot of people that
Siri just told me as well.
Right. I say to a lot of people, talking to your customers, you've got to talk to them like you're talking to your grandmother. And I said, because in trades, my sons are electricians and so forth. They talk to people like the customer knows exactly what they're talking about on their level. And I'm going, no, that's not the case. Talk to them like your grandmother, because they want that PowerPoint fixed. That's all they want to know about. Can you fix it or can't you fix it? And why is it $1,100? And if you can explain to them what it is, they go, okay, so you're not ripping me off. There's a lot of work involved in that particular item. And it's the same with furniture. They've got no understanding of what we do. And so that's what it's all about. It's just trying to engage the customer and talk to them at a level that they understand. That's where the best customer rapport is. And so when it comes to the retailers, is giving them reports that works for them to understand what the requirements are. The retailers don't want to get out of paying people. They just need a report to say, is there a manufacturer's problem? Is it a customer problem? And then they'll deal with it at what their warranty terms are.
They just want clarity, don't they?
Yeah, exactly.
And consistency.
Yeah, so the best franchisees are who basically, I say to them, get out on the road and actually do the work. Office work doesn't generate any income. That's recording history, and you send the invoices out. So from their point of view, the more they're out on the road doing stuff, there's more income they're generating.
Right. Excellent, mate. As wrapping up, so all right, it's a boring question, but I ask it all the time. Crystal balling, couple of years' time, what do you see for land repair guys? More niches, filled up South Australia, Tasmania. What are your plans? And I know you're a big technology guy as well. You're always working on tech solutions too. What's the future?
Look, I want to take out as much of the office work for those guys as possible, so that can automate a lot of stuff. So that they're, as I say, just out on the road actually doing work and generating invoices, and be able to record history easily. So, like, we get so many jobs come through so many different pipelines that they have people in there just to be able to try and create jobs in software and then have history there, and have people spending heaps of time just typing jobs, downloading photos, uploading photos, putting them into software, and it's just an ongoing struggle with all of that sort of stuff. So, we're slowly winning the war there.
A lot of AI.
Yeah, not at that level. A lot more coding, mainly. So, a certain amount of AI there, but not really. The majority is trying to just code steps to automate tasks.
Excellent. All right, mate. So, and numbers you'll fill in, obviously, the targets to fill in South Australia and Tasmania. That's on the board now.
Well, I need more guys in New South Wales and Sydney in particular. And then we've just had a second franchisee going into Melbourne, and so we'll give him 12 months or more and make sure that he's viable, and then we'll look at probably splitting it up again down there. So there's certain areas. I mean, we've got 6 franchisees in Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast area. We should have probably 8 or 10 in Sydney and same in Melbourne. But, there's no point in having 10 franchisees all struggling to get down a wage. I want to make sure each one's a winner before I move to the next step.
Mate, that's responsible franchising. So good on you for that, taking your time with that sort of stuff to make sure it's done right.
Yep, no worries.
Excellent. All right. Thanks for joining us today, Mark, to talk about Land Repair Guys, mate. We're all much the wiser now. And Joel, I don't know if you even knew about Land Repair Guys beforehand, so now you do.
I reckon I heard the name, but I had a look and it was quite interesting. Like, when hearing the business model from Mark, it just makes logical sense, but I don't think many people would know that. And obviously with the aging population as we're going, with people want to stay in home with all the recliners and the beds and all that sort of stuff, which is going to be happening more and more, it seems like it's actually a really good future-proofed industry almost in a way. So, learned a lot.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Thanks for joining us, mate. Appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you.
See you, mate. Okay, Joel, it's all you now. AI tool of the week. What are we doing this week?
We're going to do ChatGPT Work they've released, which is a new desktop sort of app. Obviously, people used to use ChatGPT Chat, but now it's called ChatGPT Work. And within that, you can flip between Codex, which is, you can build websites and do your code and stuff. And also ChatGPT Works now, you can chat as you normally would, but it's got a few other things in there. Like you can build sites, bunch of plugins and schedule tasks, and pretty much like the everything sort of app. And it's pretty good what it can do, obviously with their new model called Soul as well. So Claude was in the front lead sort of with Fable 5, and everyone was going nuts over Fable 5, including myself. And now Soul, which has come out, is pretty much an equivalent to that. So I've had a bit of time with it, and it was a great thing. I'll just show you a couple of examples. So I'll share my screen here right now. Okay, so you can see my screen there? Yep. So a couple of things to sort of know with this. So up in the top left here, you've got ChatGPT Work. So ChatGPT Work, as per normal, you have your chat function here, you have your projects, and you have all your context within them, which doesn't change at all. What is cool though, obviously you get scheduled tasks. So you can schedule tasks here like a daily brief with news or whatever you want. For me, I'm going to buy tickets to Disneyland on the 3rd or 4th of November. So I've set to, set a task where you notify me the day before and etc. and it will do that for me. So scheduling tasks is really, really handy just for some reminders. Obviously got a massive amount of plugins. So if you don't know what plugins are, it means it can interact with these different apps that you have. So if you've got Canva, Excel, all these things here, there's a mountain of apps which you can hook it up to. I've got it hooked up to my Gmail. So a lot of the time I'll come in the morning and say, are there any outstanding items in my Gmail I need to take a look into? It will go from there. They released this new thing called Sites though. So a lot of people were making websites or, in ChatGPT or Claude, for example, but you have to deploy it somewhere, right? So now they've actually built that in here. So you can basically come up with any landing page idea or whatever, and we'll deploy it in its own little thing here. So I'm just going to show you a couple of mine here on the screen. So this is one here. Now this was done with a couple of prompts, but basically this is like franchisor market intelligence. So basically, with gyms, every suburb in Melbourne has its own unique thing. You can see on the left there, Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
You see it says gives it an opportunity score of if should we put a franchisee there or not. So it said in this place here called I'll pick Coldstream. So Coldstream 74 out of 100 opportunity score. Average household income's $1,900 a week. Household 785, population's 2,200. Weekly rents this, etc. Prime working age, all these sorts of things here. 7 day 4, all these sorts of data, whether it's relevant or not. But basically, on the right here, it's showing me where I should focus franchises based on different stats in terms of their scores, right? So this is like showing you here an interactive map that was made off really a couple of prompts, right? So where it's really useful or not's another story. But this took around 15 minutes to do, Glenn. So complete map of Melbourne. It's actually got live data. So this is not just made up data. This is live data from the ABS and from a whole bunch of different things, and it's overlaid with the map here as well.
It's funny. This used to be, would have primarily always been solely the domain of these mapping companies that provide all sorts of solutions now. And I suppose it becomes relevant when you have a specific purpose that you're after, isn't it? Rather than just tinkering with it when you have a specific thing you're looking for it to show.
Well, I just did this for more of a demo for our franchisors because I've got our mowing franchise comments, right? But this is just an idea I had, right, just to show them. But this is what it did, which is quite amazing. And then the other one I did was just one-shot website, right? So I've got a current website, which is not good at all, and just basically said I want to redo it. And I said, do it in this sort of style. Now, I wouldn't use this as a website either, but this was done in one shot. So I went to my old website, which is basically here. I gave it the URL, for example, which is joelkleber.com. So I gave it the URL. Now I said I wanted to, do this, this, and this, and this. And then it basically created me a draft in some different colors as well and grabbed that all from there too. And that was done on one prompt. So if you spend a lot of time with this, obviously you can get a really good looking website, for example. But for this to be able to be done within 10 minutes within one prompt and go and do its thing is quite remarkable. And I will show you one other example as well. So there's one here, the map of Melbourne, the live 3D view, if it comes up and doesn't drop out on me again. But it was dropping out of me before.
You never know.
Yeah. So let me just put it in here. So ChatGPT can obviously host its own sites now of whatever you make. But this is the map of Melbourne. So this is basically, make me, I actually said to it, show me all of your power and all of its might, and all that sort of stuff. And I want to have a 3D interactive map of Melbourne. And this is what it made for me, right? So maps the landmarks, airspace. I can turn it on and off, road poles, etc. Flinders Street Station. It can take me to the landmark here, Melbourne Cricket Ground, all these sorts of things, right? And this is from one shot. So I created a 3D model of Melbourne pretty much with one prompt, which took around probably 10 minutes, okay? So you can see just like what applications you could do for this, right? There's so many things you could do, and this was just with basically one simple prompt and 10 minutes of doing its own thing, and I can obviously go back and forth within ChatGPT and build that up as well. So it's quite amazing what it can do. And obviously you've still got your normal chat function here, which you can do your normal chat function as well. But I do think if you've got any idea now that you want to do and deploy, you can just deploy it within ChatGPT. Maybe you hand it off to a development company or something like that and go, here's my idea, here's my MVP I built. You go and build it properly and do proper coding and stuff like that.
To build out the functionality of it and everything a bit deeper than what you can do in your own prompts.
Absolutely, yeah. But I think the real win for franchisors is you can create custom software now, which you might have been paying money for before. So for different use cases too. So I'm at the moment currently trying to build a big custom dashboard to sort of take into account a lot of things that I do. But another thing you can also do is the power of it's when you hook it up to other apps, right? So I've got a personal wiki brain I've got a second brain here. Basically, I need two brains. But I have a thing called a second brain, and within here, I have a whole bunch of different chats and things like that. But I use a tool called Obsidian. Now, Obsidian's like a note-taking, note-keeping platform. But basically what it does is anything I see on the internet that I like a video of, for example, so I might come into YouTube for example here, I'll just show you this what I'm talking about. So I might go, FranFeast, right? So I go to FranFeast podcast, for example, which I probably already have in here.
With the G, FranFeast.
Sorry, I spelled it wrong. FranFeast. Go back here. All right. So any video article, if it loads, my computer stopped working. But let me just get it come up. Always happens when you're doing stuff, right?
Yep.
FranFeast is not even coming up because I have to put in an R. Sorry. I'll have to cut that. All right. So FranFeast, right? So FranFeast, right? I go to the video here. I have this tool called Obsidian Clicker, which is basically Obsidian up here, Web Clipper. So what it can do is I can add this to Obsidian. So it adds it to here, right? So I've added that video into my little knowledge bank here. It categorizes all this sort of stuff. But then I can go to Claude, ChatGPT, because it's linked up to my second brain via the connection. And I can say, process the raw transcripts, right? So process that information from the internet that I found. Then what it will do, it will go and access my my Obsidian library here. It'll process this and add it to my personal wiki. So I've got a personal Wikipedia here. If you can see on the left here, I've got a whole bunch of different stuff on the net that I found. And if I go to the home or the index, for example, I've got a personal wiki for myself. There's your name in here, Glenn. So I can click on Glenn. What's come up for Glenn? Who are you? All that sort of stuff. And I can click on a whole bunch of different things in here. So, how you interact using ChatGPT Work or Claude, for example, then linking it up to a whole bunch of these different third-party apps and having it do things that are actually useful to you. So for me, is basically
What's useful to you in that way for that stuff?
Storing knowledge. So anything I find that's online, like a good video or a good article with marketing or whatever it is, I can basically use the web clipper and basically, clip it or, ingest that article. It'll ingest the article here as a raw file. Then once it says a raw file, for example, I'll then say to ChatGPT, can you process it? And then what it does, it gives me the full transcript in here. So this was our video, right? I don't have to do any of this. And just put the video in there, says who's in the episode and gives me a full transcript. And this is really useful from a content creation point of view, because if I want to do a bunch of posts and stuff, I can got a clean transcript in here as well. Or maybe I want to do a post.
Yeah, we're using it. Like our team's using it for obviously to being able to show notes and timings, timestamps and everything like that, of course.
Absolutely. So this is just one Yes, this is one example, but I think having a personal knowledge base now is really handy. So that's how I use ChatGPT Work with a thing like Obsidian and have this big knowledge base. And you can actually really see, I'll try and find an example of it. It looks pretty cool. You can actually see how everything connects to each other as well. Where is it? Real quickly, I'm trying to show it to you. You actually see like a neural network like this.
Oh, yeah.
So you can actually see franchise recruitment marketing, what's related to that. Franchise marketing network, podcasts, a trust asset, right?
For the visual learners.
Yeah. So you can see all these sorts of things, right? So, anything that I like, I can see here, and this is his, who is this guy and what's his concepts and stuff like that. So, using it as a way to hook up with a whole bunch of different other things is great. I do think I operate between two of them. So I don't just use ChatGPT Work. I use Claude still as well. But I think what I've worked out is you need to have a digital brain that you can feed into this thing that's going to give it context all the time, so you don't have to keep repeating yourself. So making sure you have something like that that's available. I'll give you a little look into mine real quickly on my computer here as I come back. AI Brain, you can see here on my desktop. So I have this on a Google Drive, for example. But you can see here, you can have these markdown files with all these different things. So, for example, you might have your tone of voice saved in a markdown document, right? So you have this big folder, and if you use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, you can say, access this first before you do anything else, and it'll access that, and it has all your SOPs and how you operate in here too. And obviously, ChatGPT's released skills as well, so they have copied Claude in a way. So you do have skills, repeatable workflows that you can make as well, and you can turn things into skills and that will do that as well. So it's a great upgrade. I really do love the sites function though. I think that's the coolest thing, how you can make a map of Melbourne as a 3D interactive map with one prompt and get it live within 10 minutes. So there's so many different things you can do with it. So that's a quick, rough breakdown on it. There's obviously lots of YouTubers doing these types of things.
Yep.
But I do think having a play around with it. And what are some problems in your business that you're having at the moment?
That's the biggest probably way to start, isn't it? As the feedback is, you start with what problem do you have right now, and then look for a solution around that rather than looking for AI to do something in your business.
Yeah, well, I think they're becoming the super app. So ChatGPT and Claude now, like if you look at what they're doing, like there's all these companies that have been out, let's say the last 2-3 years, which are basically wrappers where they sit on top of ChatGPT or Claude, and you basically, they've got a front end and it's just calling on and using tokens, right? Whereas I think the way they want you to go is you can do everything within that one interface. So if you're running a business, for example, a few agencies now run everything. They don't use they use Stripe directly via ChatGPT, or they run all their email system or their customer support's done directly with ChatGPT Work or Claude. So, and that will save them money as well. But I think if you're a business now, like being able to just like, if you had frustration with custom software or whatever, literally just talking to ChatGPT and Codex or whatever, and this is the problem. How would I actually solve this? And you can get to a working MVP, pretty quickly now.
Yeah, very quickly, giving it a lot of context and everything for exactly what you need.
Yeah, awesome,
excellent, Joel. Thanks for taking us through ChatGPT this week. Can't wait for the next one.
You.
G'day, Joel. Okay, let's get into social scenes. One of our favourite spots here where we talk about all the socials that we've seen, you and I, out and about. We're going to start with one that I found by a gent on LinkedIn by the name of Trent Rigby. He's a management consultant. Might be in WA, not sure where he is. He spoke to the West Australian newspaper, and he was talking about something interesting here that I thought would resonate with you, Joel, was that he was making the point about the failure of Barbecues Galore and Lincraft, which is the craft sort of material sort of brands that happened a little while ago. He was making the point that more people worked at Barbecues Galore than followed them on their TikTok account. So 500 plus people worked at Barbecues Galore and 135 people followers on TikTok. Yeah. And he said, despite posting semi-regularly since 2023, roughly one post every 2 weeks, that's not even semi-regularly, that's way, way low. They had very few likes. And he was talking about, compared to Bunnings, who would have been taking away a lot of their barbecue sales of 200,000 followers and 2.5 million likes, example. So his point was a brand selling backyard cooking and entertaining, one of the most content-friendly categories on the internet, and they were practically invisible to anyone under 40. Lincraft wasn't much better. 3,000 TikTok followers for a brand built around DIY and how-to content, a category tailor-made for the platform. However, they seem to treat their TikTok like short-form TV ads. I think this is where it's at, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, well, he's completely right. And yeah, he's exactly right. But not only TikTok, obviously that can be for Instagram, YouTube Shorts, Facebook Reels as well. So you want to obviously have cross-platform with any short-form content you create. But yeah, exactly for these sort of niches, like it's such a good way to get people through the doors from what they would from short videos online. And he's completely spot on. And put it in perspective, we've got around I think we've got 112,000 followers on TikTok and 2 million likes. So we'll hopefully get near to Bunnings one day, but I'm doing it by myself. I don't have a big team doing that. But yeah, it's very powerful. Organic social is very, very powerful. If you get good at organic social media, it can solve any problem in regards to lead gen and marketing for a lot of businesses if you get good at it. But it's crazy how the marketing manager or whoever was on the board or whoever's making these decisions regarding where they spend their marketing dollars neglected social media when it was so clear that's where people spend their time. And as he said, Gen Z millennials under 40, 50% of them don't use Google to search for products or services anymore. They use social media. So Instagram, might be TikTok, Facebook, whatever, YouTube Shorts. That's where they're discovering brands and businesses for the very first time. And if you don't have a consistent stream of content daily that's fresh and new, you're falling behind businesses that obviously do.
Yeah, and I think as a franchisor, especially when you've got marketing funds that's got that sort of stuff, franchisees are looking to you to ensure that you are building value in the brand. And building value in the brand means that there's ready customers to go to those businesses, whatever they may be.
I'll take it next level. Like you could have had the franchisees have their own store accounts. So the franchisees have their own store accounts and hey, you guys, you can post your own videos if you want. I'm sure you have got one or two people out of maybe 30 franchisees who took to it like a duck to water and were really good. And that probably could have maybe had massive accounts of their own following as Barbecues Galore's their store. But that could have definitely driven some awareness and sales for everyone else as well. But yeah, I think neglecting social media, like I still think there's a lot of arrogance sometimes from
there is.
from execs and from people on boards and from some marketing managers who might be skew a bit older, and they really dismiss it as a channel sometimes. Organic social media.
Yeah. I was going to say, I interviewed Kip McGrath, the founder of Kip McGrath Education Centres last week. He's like 82, 83. And I was talking about how he grew such a brand to the size that he did. And he said TV, absolutely TV in the 80s and 90s. However, he said today, absolutely no way. Basically, he said anyone who's putting money into TV is an idiot. Not exactly the word, but that was his type of demeanour that he had about it. And I thought that was, he knows, he gets it.
Where is attention and where it's the cheapest, right? And, people are spending a lot of time flicking through their phones, doom scrolling, getting the dopamine, spike from watching YouTube shorts and stuff like that. And you've got an opportunity to get content served in their face. And the great thing about it is now, Glenn, it's interest-based media. So if you've shown an interesting, if you're looking for barbecues or, you're looking for DIY tips or whatever, if you create content around that as a business, your content can get seen for free by that person who's got an interest in that subject matter, right? So it's an absolute no-brainer. And Gary Vaynerchuk, where you like him or hate him, he's been going on about this for years, and he's spot on, and he's exactly spot on. So where is attention the cheapest? Then organic social media is a great opportunity for anyone still in 2026.
Yeah, I go back to 2018, 2019. We were working closely with a safety business on marketing for franchise recruitment, and one of my pieces of advice to them was let's build a 1 to 2 minute video of every major piece of equipment you have in store of one of your most outgoing team members or franchise owners, explaining this harness, explaining these boots, explaining this hard hat, explaining this item we've got there. Let's fill the airwaves with it, because Bunnings won't do it. They won't do it. And that was back in 2018 or whatever like that. And no, there was no vision or desire to look into it in any way.
I'll give you an example. I follow a butcher shop on TikTok. They've got around 60,000 followers, and all their videos are a 14-year-old kid. He's great on the camera, talking about meats and stuff. And they did a bit of an interview, and they've got people flying from England to go and see this butcher shop and buy meat specifically from this butcher shop. And from their organic social media TikTok, with a 14-year-old kid just talking about meats and stuff, and they don't have an issue with sales. So it's a really important aspect. But I'll say to you then, Glenn, if a business is listening to this and they know they need to invest in their area, what would you sort of say about where to start?
Just start creating your own content. Just start talking and letting people know how passionate you are about what you do. It's really not. Pull out your phone and do it. I mean, yeah, we do it a bunch, but you don't need to. I'd just be happy if franchisors were creating content. And even when I speak to franchisors about stuff that we do, I say, if you don't do it with us, do it with someone else or do it by yourself. Create something, start filming. And if it's not you, someone else in your business will be keen. There will be someone who would love to be in front of the camera, someone who's outgoing, someone who's not shy, someone who's an extrovert who just enjoys it. And they will, do amazing things for your business that you never realize, but you'll never know if you don't actually start. If you keep talking about it, a lot of brands talk about it, but don't actually put any implementation in place. The amount of brands that I talk about who say, we'll talk about it next year. We'll talk about it next year. We'll talk about it next year. 3, 4, 5 years in a row, we're doing the same conversations. The market will just get away from them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll get away from them. Legacy brands in particular, you better get on it, because it'd just be taken away from you much faster than you ever imagined, in my view.
And you can't do the crappy stock Canva graphics and then distribute it to your franchisees, which is the same thing, and then post it on their social, because it'll get no reach as well. So you have to do unique short form content to each location now as well. And you have to give them the tools and equip that. Because I actually, think about this the other day, a lot of brands talk about, digital asset management and these sorts of things as well, and brand compliance and stuff. And then you look at I've looked at a few brands where they have multiple store locations and they do this sort of setup. All those posts get no reach at all. Because they're duplicate content and they're just boring graphics with a few things changed and posted, and that's it. So the strategy for now is short form video. It'll be short form video for a long time. And if you don't embrace short form video and creating stuff that might not be overly produced, or doesn't have a script and stuff like that, I think you're going to fall behind.
Yeah, I always say no script. Every time people want, what questions are you going to ask me? I'll write my answers. I always say, don't do that. Don't do that.
It's crazy.
Just be yourself.
I think because a lot of people who are making decisions in these businesses, they're not in those platforms as well. And they assume, well, because I'm not in it, I don't understand it, we don't need to invest in it. That's wrong. Look at objectively, where is attention being spent? Go to ChatGPT. give me a list in Australia of age groups of how much their time they're spending in what particular platform. Then analyze your brand's presence against that platform. Do we have enough content in that platform where, let's say under 40s are spending 3 hours of time a day? If you don't, which I presume you don't, you need to do it. So it's as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. Franchisors is no longer a blind spot. You can't use it as an excuse it was a blind spot, you didn't pick it. So that's the way it is. Trent Rigby, great call out, mate. Well done for that. Moving on to the next one. I like this one. Screw Uber. I wrote about this next one. Screw Uber by a local store. I won't play it on this one. I won't play it because we'll get problems with YouTube. So this is a bloke in Adelaide who owns Stack's Burger Co. named Zane Bird. And this came up in my feed, and it was a Channel 9 story about how he's sick of being charged. A lot of people wouldn't realise, consumers wouldn't realise, as Uber's taken about 30% of what the cost is of the burger that you're getting delivered or what it is. That's a lot out of a business. Now, yes, they get benefits there. They brought a market and do all that sort of stuff there and get reach, and you're not having to pay your own drivers and everything, but there's a balance of where there's a dominance there that it just gets too much percentage of the turnover. So this guy decided, I'm sick of this. And in the app made all his burgers $500 and basically did a screw Uber thing because he's like, oh, well, if you're going to take that much, I'm going to take that much, and no one's going to buy, and basically encouraging people to come direct to him. And Uber kicked him off the platform.
Yep.
Do you use Uber Eats and stuff, mate? Do you use any of those delivery things?
I used to. I don't anymore. I drive to the places. Obviously know that there's a fee. Obviously on the FCA events committee here with Callum from Concept 8 and hearing about stuff, obviously DoorDash and what goes on now. And it's quite clear that Uber Eats is trying to make a monopoly. They're offering these 3-year deals to places to be exclusively on them. And obviously they're doing it maybe at a loss sometimes to try and kick out the other players. And I think once again, we've got a big problem with a massive player in the market, and the ACCC does nothing about it.
Oh, and I know it well. I used to get my boy out working away and we were doing stuff. We registered for a account. I used to go out with him when he was 18 and go out and do some driving for him to earn some cash and just help him build his confidence and everything there. It was, I've got to say, Joel, a bit stressful sometimes, but it was an eye-opener for me. I actually learned a lot. I learned a lot the way it works, and that. There's not a hell of a lot of money in it for the drivers. There really isn't. No. You've got to put a lot on the line. Your car, your everything and everything. It's great to have that being able to generate income like that, but it doesn't come without challenges. And then when the driver's being challenged and the store's being challenged with 30%, geez, there's a lot of money going through that without a lot of necessarily being given back.
What's the competitors here really, Glenn? Obviously, you've got DoorDash, which is one. One of the other, I think there's a couple of other players, I guess, but obviously
there's not much else there. Menulog's gone. Was the other one Gorilla? Wasn't there a Gorilla one?
Yeah, there was something like that. Yep.
And there's
Deliveroo and stuff.
We used to work with one. We did some content for one called Bite Local. I know he's changed the name of it and everything in the platform. I'll look into it and see where there. But he was more of a local Australian-based one that was really building it for drivers and restaurants. So we might give some coverage to them one of these weeks and just really try and let people know, because they're trying to sort of reimagine it, I suppose, in a more fairer sort of way. So I like when people are doing those sorts of things.
Absolutely. But look, it's just such a big, powerful play with so much money, and they spend a lot of money on brand marketing as well, and making you feel good and really appealing to young kids and stuff like that. Obviously, to offset anything like this, but once again, it's such a big player, and ACCC again. As I said, in Australia, we love a monopoly or a duopoly, and I think it just looks like it's just going to keep using its power and might to just keep getting more of the market, and it's great to see a business like that be really smart and push back and get some PR around it as well, because I'm sure they'll get a lot of support and really marketing from
hopefully so. Hopefully get a lot of local support. I agree.
Yeah.
So it's probably a really good move, I'd say.
Absolutely.
Next one up. Who we got next? We were going to. So good luck to them. All right, Joel, this one's right in your wheelhouse. I have my notes here as Jim Penman challenges Prime Minister. What were you doing? So what happened here?
Well, I get an idea for a release, right? So if I see a story and I think Jim can get a comment on it, we'll do it. And there's obviously a couple of releases we got taken up. But basically, this one actually came about with the franchising code, and but then it sort of morphed into the headline they used. Jim Penman invites people to spend a day at a small business to learn about the rising tide of red tape and obstructing entrepreneurs. So Jim's obviously running for Parliament. Big part of his platform is government and red tape. He thinks you can get rid of half the bureaucrats and we won't lose any productivity but save a bunch of money. So it's more about, what angles can you throw on a PR release to get taken up? And obviously there's Albanese at the moment. I don't think it's overly very popular in a lot of the media. It might be popular with people. That's another story, but I don't think he's very overly popular with a lot of
I think he's probably he's popular in a way that the alternative is not very popular. So that makes you popular, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But I think, whatever we can do with a PR release that's going to get taken up, I'm always thinking of angles, right? So, an angle is like, come and spend a day in the field with me, offer from Jim Penman. That's something that will probably get taken up. And if there's a particular paper or online place like Sky, for example, which leans a certain way, that's going to be a fair chance to be taken up as well, and you obviously get an interview. But always looking at with releases like with Jim, for example, is a bit of a human headline. What's interesting or a bit out there from Jim that we can do on a release that gets taken up? And it seems to be at the moment with his political stuff, people have got an interest in that and his thoughts around that. And a lot of that stuff is focused around regulation and the franchising code, which is a passion of Jim's as well. But we'll keep doing that coming into November and try and get as much of that mainstream coverage as we can.
So I reckon there'd be a lot of franchisors going, oh, well, but he's Jim Penman. So how would you suggest franchisors start this themselves? Because, you got to start.
It wasn't always like that.
Yeah, no.
Well, it wasn't always like that at all. No one probably knew he was real probably back before 2019, really.
Yeah.
So I think, building a really big social presence definitely helps as well. That knows that. And then obviously when you do releases and things like that, trying to get some PR, like just engaging with PR, it can seem like you're not paying for much sometimes. But every now and again, they might get you a story which will definitely offset that value that you pay in a monthly retainer.
Isn't the PR one, it almost becomes they can tap the shoulder of someone at a paper that they used to work at or something and say, hey, can you get this in?
You're paying for the relationship. Yeah. Another tactic you could do is when they do news stories, a lot of the time news.com.au, they have the X profile or the Twitter profile of the person there, so you can find them on X. So you can find them on X or then LinkedIn, and you can reach out to them directly as well, adding a comment in about that. Or you can send them a message with some sort of story insight as well. And that sometimes can work. I've done it a couple of times on X as Jim. It's a little bit easier, I guess, as Jim, but you can reach out to a journalist and then get a story that way. But I think if you're a franchisor wanting to build your brand, getting some digital PR now is really, really important.
Yeah, you've got to start somewhere, don't you? You just got to start. And obviously it also helps to be building your personal brand as the founder or CEO or leader or whatever it is now to make that happen. So that's always,
I think it's important because when they need someone to comment on something, or when you do these releases, like you've at least got, maybe someone might recognize your name, whereas if you don't do that sort of stuff, they're not going to recognize it unless you're some big person at a massive company, of which they obviously know. But if you're a newer, maybe unknown brand or less of known brand, you've got to generate this sort of stuff for yourself.
Absolutely. All right. Well done, mate. Well done. This one's an interesting one. This is a franchise supplier in the US on LinkedIn doing an extensive post here calling out bad behavior by a franchisor. Now, the old franchise supplier network even here is a bit of like the supplier cartel sort of thing there. It's like everyone talks, and I think many franchisors probably don't realize that a lot of suppliers talk to each other about, behaviors and things franchisors do and all that sort of stuff there. And I know because I've been a franchisor and now obviously a supplier to the marketplace as well. And this guy, Alex Suber, was talking about, he started with fellow franchise consultants. I wanted to share an experience that I believe would be irresponsible not to discuss with our community. And he's talking about a particular brand. I won't say the brand doesn't really matter, but he talks about he must be a broker of some sort, saying deals from last year that remain unpaid, which I was never informed of and I discovered, blah, blah, blah. Details in commission payments, a lack of ownership, accountability, urgency, and communication when concerns are raised, a candidate who purchased 16 units approximately 7 months ago and is complaining there's not had a single machine placed. So it must be like a vendor type of business, I'm guessing.
Yep.
Interesting, isn't it? It's a big call. It's got I think 26 likes, 8 comments, a repost and stuff like that. It's a big call for a supplier to put something out like that, because a lot of other franchisors might look at that in that space and think, well, I'm not, if that person can do that, I'm not working with that person. So it says something, doesn't it, about what they've been receiving on the other end.
It's obviously getting frustration, not getting the action from the business, I guess, and trying to put them on blast online. You're right. It's probably not the typical thing I would do, but unless you can't resolve it privately, then if you've got that only as an option and you don't really care too much about the consequence with it, then go for it. But it's interesting, the whole concept of consultants and franchise brokers in the US. Obviously, we don't really have that here. I guess we have franchisors and master franchisees, I guess, in their way that act like it a bit as well. So I do find the whole consultant sort of marketing interesting as well. But yeah, I feel sorry for the guy. Obviously, they recommend a brand or they get paid to place someone in a brand and get paid a commission on it. And obviously, ethically as well, you want to make sure if you've got a moral compass that the brand you're placing with is going to do the right thing because they've invested not only in what you're recommending to them, but the business they have been. If that lets them down as well, that is your reputation for sure.
Yeah, and I've had, with work that we've done, I've had franchisors in Australia, very few, thankfully, over the years, screw me on payments owed, on things like that, and that's really disappointing, especially when it's over like such small amounts. That stuff is like, oh, why would you do that? And there's a couple of people that have, and then I've watched those businesses fail, and I think, well, that's because of that sort of conduct. That's why that business.
100%. It catches up with you. It catches up with you, and if you're doing that type of behavior as well, it's the universe has a way of working itself out. So
I agree. So
catch up with you.
For the most part, it's all it's generally pretty good. But I think franchisors knowing that suppliers talk amongst themselves because it's a very small community here in Australia, really, when you think about it. So,
hey, mate, people send me DM on LinkedIn all the time asking about people or
same
this thing or whatever, right? So, what is your brand to me? If I've had a good dealing with you, I'm obviously going to be an advocate for you as well. So, how you deal with people at all levels, it does travel and it can have a major impact if you're doing sketchy and dodgy stuff. Yeah, as you said, Glenn, it will get around.
Yeah, I've given numerous references to four people I know in the sector who have been selling franchises in recruitment roles to go to other businesses over the time because the franchisor wants to know what's this person like, or I get called informally saying, what's this person like to work with? I know you've clearly done a bit of work with them. What are they like?
I had a couple of people do that to me, and I had a mate of mine do it, and I said to him, don't take a job at this particular place. I won't name the business, and it's going to go like this. And 8 months later, he called me and said, you were right. I should listen to you. So yes,
like that.
Yeah. So you do have that sort of stuff happening for sure.
Yeah. Small community. All right. Next one. GYG. I like this. This is good for tech. GYG, first Aussie fast food, on Apple CarPlay. Let's have a look there. What's that one on a news.com.au one? So this is interesting there. The GYG becomes first Aussie fast food app on CarPlay screens. Okay, I'm not going to do the fluff to it. Goes the first one to do it. So make in-app orders on hands-free via Apple CarPlay, making the drive-through experience a whole lot quicker. That sounds like a brochure. GYG announced it, letting consumers know in a few easy taps you can select your favorite order, check out using the saved card, and drive to the nearest GYG outlet, all without touching your phone. GYG aiming to reinvent fast food. New tech we know who they are. There you go. Yeah. So I don't know. Do you think that's much of an upgrade to be able to order GYG without picking up your phone?
Gets you nice PR. Some people might like it, but it's, obviously if the technology is that's available and people aren't using it, why not be a first adopter of it? And makes for a great story and a great release as well, and shows you're leading the future tech. How it impacts sales, I don't know, but obviously you're reducing the friction regarding to ordering, so it should have a positive impact, you'd think.
Absolutely. And I think if you think about it from a positioning perspective of people looking at the business, that immediately sends a signal that these guys are up, they're on it, they're all over it, they're covering every angle, there's no blind spots. They're the first again. So it's a big win for the brand, and, well done.
Once again, you got that tile of their brand on your, right? So you're sitting there, and then, someone's scrolling through, then they see the app as well. So it's really cool from a little branding and marketing perspective that you've got the literal tile of a company sitting in your car every time you go in.
Free real estate.
Absolutely.
Tap a favorite or recent order and pay with a saved card. And while you head towards the store, you can track your order on the screen.
That could be dangerous. For a lot of people, that could be dangerous. So, yes, I think it's going to I
don't think they're tracking it as in watching the burrito being made, though. All right. What was this one? No, we won't do that one. Sorry, this is how we do this, and we have a whole list of ones here, and then as we're doing it, we go, no, we won't do that one. All right, so we've got a couple of ones here as we finish off on a few things here. These were things you're going to do that. Some of the gym stuff that you've been doing recently in socials. I like this because, straight from the horse's mouth, a great case study in what you're doing to help franchisors have an impact in what you do. So a couple of these gyms this one was on TikTok. What percentage does gyms take? Talk us through these.
Yes, I've been doing it for a couple of years now. We've just been doing simple on TikTok, for example, or a lot of platforms. You can just reply to a comment with a video. And we had a lot of success with these things, and it's really easy to do. Like the gyms roll out efficiency and less effort sometimes. So basically, rather than having to read scripts or wait for us to set up various things or whatever, I can literally just go 30 negative comments and just go with my squeaky voice behind the camera, blah, 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 and you just respond, and then that's a video. And then some of those things might get 5,000 views. Something like this might get 200,000 views. So it's a really easy content strategy. But once again, it goes to the transparency piece, right? What percentage does gym take? So rather than having a static sentence on a website, I've got the actual founder responding to that, and that will get more views than our website will ever get over the next 2 years probably.
Yeah.
So constant education about your franchise, because there's so many comments and questions you get from an audience, and then you can literally just respond now for the video of the CEO. Like, it's such a really big point of difference for us. And we have a lot of people now who come in based on these short form videos as being the first interaction they even have with our brand. So it's the first touch point, and they'll go and consume, or Jim might answer him or whatever. And the next thing you know, they're inquiring about a franchise. And that's the thing that actually got them to start the journey. It's really low effort stuff from us, but it's really transparent as well, because you look at it, shot on a phone, my creaky voice, it's jiggering, and there's no editing.
That's authentic. And I think,
but it works.
And it fits in with what we've been talking about already as well, is that this is applicable to any franchisor. And I would say to them, be the celebrity in your niche, be the celebrity in your local area, be that. So that if that's how you see yourself and think, I'm not getting that many views, you just keep doing it. You just keep doing it. You become that celebrity in that little space and that little thing that you do. It'll pay dividends.
Yeah, I think it's a really easy one. Like, people go, where do I start with video? I think like that's a really easy one. Like, just start doing some videos and you'll get questions, and use the reply function on a video and just respond to people. It's great for practice as well. Like, if you're not good at talking on camera, or you're a bit shy or not confident, you can get some really good practice doing that too. And the great thing about it is, like, people got short attention spans. So if you make a mistake or whatever, you can just delete it or move on. But it's a great opportunity for people now just to do that. And it's completely different to what anyone else is doing. Like, you're not going to see, that's why we do it. You're not going to see a CEO of another brand as big as ours doing little short TikTok responding to customers on videos. In saying that, the actual McDonald's CEO has a really good Instagram presence. He does a little bit more controlled ones. But
which one are you talking about, the Australian one or US?
No, the American one, the US guy.
Yeah, but isn't that, seen that burger one where he does that?
No, the burger one was obviously blew up, but there's other stuff. Bite? Yeah, but there's other stuff around that as well. But if you look at his Instagram feed, he literally does a similar thing. But he's a lot more better. I think he's a bit more better personality than probably what Jim is.
He's a bit polished. He's pretty polished.
Right? But he does some really good stuff. And all he does is answer questions on Instagram. That's it. So I think it's a really easy strategy, and that's why I'm sharing it, because I think it's if you want to start doing content and things like that, that's how we do it. And I think if a 74-year-old man can answer questions on TikTok, I think a lot of other people can.
Totally agree. The next one of those, the other one was I've just got the screen up here. What a cracker. Luke Donkin, literally no one. What's that one about?
Yeah, so this is a strategy of just doing reaction videos. So reaction videos are quite popular on YouTube. So if you've got a young kid, for example, they might just watch their favorite person reacting to videos and giving commentary on it, right? And we've been finding that we've been doing these reaction videos. Doesn't have to be funny stuff or whatever. Like, it can be a silly video of someone using the hedge trimmer wrong or whatever. But I'm finding that these reaction videos get pretty good traction, because you're taking a viral video that's already done well and you just react to it. But algorithms work on watch time. So if it's a funny video or a unique video with something funny happening, people are going to be more inclined to watch it to the end. It tells the algorithm this is something that we want people, people are going to push out to more people, and they'll do it. So you can be a CEO, you can be an executive, and there could be some business advice clip or something like that. Watch it through, give your honest thoughts to it, and then post it. And we've been doing this, and it's gone quite mega viral. A couple of the gyms ones. We've had Jim react to another video where someone did all these gyms divisions, like gyms electrical, gyms coin, gyms this and that. And we get him to literally just watch it and respond to it. And that thing on his Instagram's had like 170,000 views, and on TikTok do more like that. And it's a really simple content strategy from anyone. Just, you might have someone who's a bit out of the norm in your business. It might be a bit of a stuffed shirt, but just getting them to respond to stuff in your industry and giving a commentary on it is a really easy, simple strategy.
Excellent. Excellent. Well done, mate. Well, we'll keep seeing all the stuff. I love getting the inside running on what you guys are up to there, and I think a lot of people can learn from it. So hopefully they other franchisors adopt it and keep getting franchising as a business model out there further. Joel, thanks, mate. Thanks for doing the social scene for this week.
Thank you.
G'day, Joel. Okay, we're going to roll straight into the upcoming events. We're coming up is the 1st and 2nd of August, which is the Melbourne Franchising Expo. And you and I are going to be there, aren't we?
Yes, we are. It's going to be exciting, actually. I wasn't originally going to go, and you had a great idea to do the stand and do the podcast live there. So looking forward to seeing people there.
Yeah, no, we're looking forward to it. So we're going to set up a booth there, have the podcast running. So we'll do a FranFeast. I'll do a bit of my Franchise Everything podcast. I don't think you're going to be at the second day. I think you got soccer or something on, haven't you?
I've got obligations, I know.
Well, good on you, mate. Lifestyle, mate. You got to do your lifestyle stuff, mate. Good for you. We'll get plenty out. I'm sure we'll probably do 30 segments while we're there in one day. So we're going to meet a lot of people. So really looking forward to that. August, the whole month of August is Women in Franchising Month, and that is events across the country. I think we talked about in that last one, in the last episode, Joel. I went to the Sydney one and the Brisbane one last year, and they're both really good. Actually, I went to the Melbourne one as well. Yeah, so really good.
It's the most attended event, from what I know. It always gets sold out. It's really good feedback as well. So it's definitely the most popular event on the calendar for sure from the FCA.
Yeah, so the FCA events, and so I'll be making my way to a number of those as well, and who knows, maybe I'll see you at the Melbourne one, and that'll line up with what we've also produced at the Franchising Forum. We've just filmed 6 Women in Franchising podcasts as well for the FCA, so we look forward to getting those out. We'll start getting those out, I think, over the next week or something. I think we've got the first one out, so that was a really fun thing to do and a really interesting thing to do as well. So yeah, Women in Franchising Month, August. And we're sticking very franchising focused. 18th to 20th of October, mark it in your calendars. National Franchise Convention in Canberra, which is we used to say the biggest event of the year for the FCA, but we just had the Franchise Forum and the FIA Awards in June. And I think at the dinner, you and I were both at that, there was like 630 people or something. So it was a great event, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was huge. Very big. Hopefully they can carry that momentum over as well. It's obviously in Canberra, so it should be good. It's over 3 days, I guess, with the Sunday being for the streams, like the marketing stream and things like that. So I'll be a part of that, and then obviously got the 2 days of the convention.
Yeah, so I think they've got a legal stream. It used to be just a legal symposium. Now they do a legal.
Yeah, that's 5. There's 5 of them, I think.
Is there 5? Wow.
I think there's a couple of other ones, yeah, I think.
Okay, well, we might get someone on from the FCA actually, maybe in the next episode, to actually talk about the event, what's coming up, to get some details there. I think that'll be a really good segment to have there, so we can sort of unpack what's happening in that NFC. I mean, we're a few months out, so there'll be a few changes, but I'm sure pretty much it'd be good to know what's going on there.
Absolutely.
Awesome, Joel. That's it. Second episode of FranFeast podcast is done. That was a bit easier this time, wasn't it?
It was, but obviously there's a lot of work still that goes into it with yourself and and Jono as well with editing. So appreciate all the hard work you do.
Excellent, mate. We love it. We look forward to the next one. The next one we're probably going to do, and we're going to be doing pretty much all of them live at the Melbourne Expo. So you'll be catching up with us in person there, mate. Looking forward to it.
Well, if people want to say good day, just come up and say good day and have a chat. It'd be great to meet everyone.
Excellent, mate. All right, catch you in the next one.
See you then.
See ya.